Chapter 1790. Wuji finally realized that this damn battlefield of gods and demons was a scam. After spending so much effort in a match, they could only get 6 points in the end. How the F***ck could they continue playing? Even Wang Yu, who was very interested in this new gameplay, was depressed when he saw this pitiful point reward. I'm not playing anymore, I'm not playing anymore. To place one's pride, this young man waved his hand and said, "Isn't this a F***king waste of time? If we grind like this, we'll grind until the day the server shuts down." "Isn't that so?" Wuji also said. "Now that we've offended that group of studios that sell points, we're definitely on their blacklist. It's fine if we get cheated once, but if we get cheated again and again, it'll really be a waste of time for us to continue playing." What Wuji said was very reasonable. Those studios that sell points did not care about how many points they had. If they forcefully quit the game when they saw Chuanjin's group, it was likely that Chuanjin's group would not be able to get a single point even if they farmed for a whole day. It had to be said that in the current situation, the studios had already occupied the main structure of the battlefield. These bastards had been wandering on the edge of the rules. With the rules of the system, no matter how strong Wang Yu and the others were, they could not do anything to them. "Then what should we do?" Wang Yu said gloomily. "Are we just going to let it go? Are we not going to farm points?" Everyone came to the battlefield to farm materials for Yin Lao Air. If they could not farm points, how were they going to exchange for materials? Of course not. Wuji touched his chin and said, "Since the small battlefield of 5v5 is not suitable for us, let's fight on the big battlefield." "Big battlefield?" Hearing Wuji said, the others were stunned. "That's right," Wuji said, "it's the big battlefield." Wang Yu glanced at the battlefield settings and said, "The minimum requirement for the big battlefield is 1,000 people. Where are we going to find so many people? Isn't there a guild mode?" Wuji pointed to the last battlefield mode and said, "This requires a minimum of 10 people, and in this mode, there will be no situation like the previous round. Indeed, in the guild mode battlefield, everyone was guild against guild, and both sides were on the same side. Naturally, there wouldn't be a situation where they would send themselves to their deaths." "Makes sense." Wang Yu touched his chin and said, "Isn't it faster to earn points this way?" "Of course." Wuji nodded and said, "Guilds nowadays are basically formed with 500 players. Guilds that dare to fight in the battlefield mode are formed with more than 1,000 players. We can get at least 1,000 points in a single match." "Alright." Hearing Wuji's words, Wang Yu said excitedly, "This is the guild mode. This is what it means to farm points. That Nyo go, boss Wuji." Hearing the conversation between Wang Yu and Wuji, Yin Lao Air was about to sweat. He couldn't help but remind them, "Our Chuanjin only has a dozen people who can fight. Well, what are these two lawless guys thinking? 10 people against a few hundred people, and they still look confident." Fortunately, there were no outsiders here, or else people would think that they were crazy. As for Wang Yu's strength and Wuji's tactics, Yin Lao Air didn't doubt them. However, the guild mode battlefield wasn't as simple as it seemed. If it was a guerrilla warfare, with Wuji's superb commanding ability, a dozen people could easily kill a few hundred people. Although the map of the guild mode was large, in order to prevent those hide-and-seek players from taking advantage of the situation, the map would shrink every once in a while. This way, Wuji's flexible tactics would be greatly limited. By that time, a dozen people would be at a disadvantage against hundreds or thousands of people. That's not a problem." In response to Yin Lao Air's worries, Wuji smiled and said, "The more people there are, the bigger the target. We won't necessarily benefit from more people. We have nothing to lose after all." The guild mode's setting was that every person killed would be awarded 1 point, and the winning side's points would be doubled. The difference was that the losing side's points would be halved. For example, in a battle between 2,000-man guilds, the winning side would kill 1,000 people, and the losing side would kill 800 people. In that case, the winning side would obtain a total of 2,000 points, and the losing side would only obtain 400 points. Therefore, the more people there were, the more kills there would be. Chuanjin had a total of 11 people. Even if all of them died, they would at most give away 22 points. Similarly, as long as Chuanjin killed 44 people, this wave wouldn't be considered a loss. It was just 44 people. This was not difficult for Chuanjin. Moreover, with a master strategist like Wu Ji, a ruthless person like Wang Yu, and a group of experts from Chuanjin, it was still unknown who would win and who would lose. Yin Lao Er was a smart person. With just one sentence from Wu Ji, Yin Lao Er's worries disappeared like smoke. Forget it, let's just do it. After confirming that they were going to fight in the guild mode's battlefield, Wu Ji casually sent a message to the others. Everyone, hurry up and come to the battlefield. I've already gotten a room. Very soon, the people from Chuanjin sent a message. The content of the message was almost the same. Battlefield? What's that? How do we enter? Wu Ji first briefly explained what a battlefield was. Then, he told everyone that he didn't know how to enter the battlefield either. He would look around the arena in the city and there would be an entrance. Although the entrance to the battlefield in every main city was different, it was quite close to the arena. It didn't take long for Chuanjin to find the entrance to the battlefield. Then, following Wu Ji's instructions, they arrived at the room where Wang Yu and the others were. Didn't you guys go to the auction house? As soon as they entered the battlefield room, Mingdu started yelling. Why did you suddenly think of playing the battlefield? Of course, isn't this kind of meaningless PvP a waste of time? This was Mingdu's way of thinking. PvP was a waste of time if it wasn't for the sake of snatching the boss. Why are we going to the auction house? Wang Yu asked in return. To buy materials, Mingdu said. That's why we came to the battlefield. Wang Yu pointed at the exchange option on the wall and said, Second eldest materials can only be exchanged with battlefield points. That's a scam? Mingdu opened the exchange option with a face full of doubt. When he saw the items in the exchange column, his eyes lit up and he immediately shouted, Then what are we waiting for? Let's get started. F***ck oldly. That's not what you said when we came just now. Seeing that Mingdu was so unprincipled, Chun Xiang and the others opened the exchange option as well. Then, everyone fell silent. Clearly, the items that could be exchanged with battlefield points were of the highest quality. Not only were there materials that Yin Lao Er needed, but there were also items that everyone else desired. For example, the Thunder Elemental Stone and the Viper's Venom Gland were two rare materials that Mingdu and Chun Xiang needed to raise their Thunder attribute and create poisons. Chapter 1791. These guys from Chuanjin were all cunning. If he wanted them to work hard, he had to show them the benefits. After being in Chuanjin for so long, Wang Yu naturally knew these people's temperament. If they didn't see the use of the points, although this group of people wouldn't use them to deal with official business, they definitely wouldn't use their trump cards. Now that they saw that the points could be exchanged for so many necessities, they would naturally be extremely excited and go all out. There was no need for Wang Yu to say anything, these people would also risk their lives. Seeing that everyone was in high spirits, Wu Ji didn't dare to offend them. He smiled and opened the guild battle mode. Immediately, everyone entered the matchmaking interface. Compared to party battles, the guild battle mode was much slower. After all, everyone was very busy. No guild would be as bored as these guys from Chuanjin. Even if there was, it would be a small guild that was not much bigger than Chuanjin. They knew their own strength and would definitely not come to the battlefield to humiliate themselves. After waiting for a whole minute, a guild name finally appeared on the matching interface. Guild name: Duck Prophet of Spring River Warm Guild Members. 974. Do you want to fight? Tisk TSK Tisk. Looking at the guild information on the public screen, everyone could not help but sigh. Guild players did not have much freedom. The bigger the guild, the more difficult it was. Therefore, it was impossible for large guilds with thousands of players to come to the battlefield. Moreover, the guild battle mode was different from Demonic Canyon. In order to prevent small guilds from not having a good gaming experience, the guild battle mode was based on the overall strength of the guild. Now that they were matched with a guild with thousands of players, it was clear that there were not many guilds like Chuanjian who would ignore their duties and come to the battlefield. Even the matching mechanism was messed up. While everyone was lost in thought, a peculiar expression appeared on famous Sword Daoshue's face when he saw the guild's name on the public screen. "What's wrong?" Wuji saw this and asked, "Do you know someone from this guild?" Mingjian Daoshue was Chuanjian's favorite person on the forum. He had seen all kinds of people. Every time he showed this expression, it was definitely when he met someone or a guild he knew. "I don't know him," Mingjian Daoshue shook his head and said, "but I've heard of it. This studio is quite famous in the circle." Famous Sword Daoshue could also be considered half a professional gamer. The circle he was talking about was definitely the professional gamers' workshop circle. "Studio?" Chun Xiang touched his chin and said, "Why haven't I heard of it?" In Chuanjian, other than Mingjian Daoshue, Chun Xiang had the most contact with the studio. However, Chun Xiang was completely clueless about this guild. He had no impression of it at all. "It's normal that you haven't heard of it." Mingjian Daoshue smiled and said, "Not only are you unable to come into contact with them, none of us can come into contact with them." "Why?" Chun Xiang asked in confusion. "Do you play in the arena?" Famous Sword glanced at Spring Grace and said, "These guys are professional actors. They control the arena's high tiers all year round, and their customers are all players from the big guild. So that's what they do." Hearing Mingjian Daoshue's words, Chun Xiang came to a sudden realization and revealed a disdainful expression. The arena's high tiers were a threshold, and normal players definitely wouldn't be able to reach them. The players from the big guild's time was more precious, and of course they wouldn't have so much energy to spend on the arena. So, if they could spend money to settle things, they definitely wouldn't waste time. Blood Alliance had previously found Wang Yu to help them level up. These big guilds were all people who cared about their face, so of course they wouldn't openly announce that they had paid for travel fees in order to quickly level up. So, although the experts all knew that there was such an actor profession, if one didn't come into contact with the studio circle, they wouldn't know who was doing such a thing. However, towards this profession, everyone looked down on it. This profession couldn't provide any benefits to normal players, and instead directly affected the player's gaming experience. In the gaming world, actors had always been known as the cancer of esports. Similarly, the players from the studios all looked down on this profession. Even Chuanjian's group of wretched fellows scoffed at this. "Don't look down on them." Seeing Chun Xiang's expression, Mingjian Daoshue reminded, "The things they do are despicable, but their strength isn't weak at all. Everyone, don't underestimate them." Mingjian Daoshue's words weren't groundless. These fellows were the threshold of the arena, and their strength was defined as below professional players and above normal players. Their strength wasn't weak, and some of the more outstanding ones could even fight on par with professional players. Of course, that was only in the context of the arena. It was normal for 8 to 10 people to be strong, but if nearly 1,000 people were all at this level, then it would be a bit ridiculous. Rebirth was a game that had a very strict definition of experts. "It's okay." Wuji heard this and smiled. "The arena is about teamwork. The more people they have, the better it is for us." As he said this, Wuji pressed confirm. The scene changed, and the people from Chuanjian were transported to an airship. Directly below the airship was the battlefield. The guild battlefield could accommodate up to tens of thousands of people, and the battlefield map was naturally much larger than the demonic god's canyon. Looking down from the airship, the entire guild battlefield could be seen, but because the map was too big, everyone couldn't see it clearly, and could only see the general area. From the coordinates, the area of the guild battlefield was not much smaller than the main cities in the game. Moreover, the battlefield had forests, mountains, cities, rivers, and other kinds of terrain. The guild battlefield had everything that a main city had. The only difference was that as a battlefield, this map was desolate and uninhabited, and it looked more like the ruins of a main city. According to the settings, the battlefield would shrink after a certain period of time, and if players didn't enter the safe area before the battlefield shrank, the system would automatically declare them dead. Therefore, after entering the battlefield, hiding and playing hide-and-seek would not work. They could only run while fighting until they were wiped out. Moreover, in the battlefield map, players' flying equipment and mounts could not be used. Apart from skills, everyone had to rely on their feet to run. However, when players entered the battlefield, the map would randomly spawn vehicles and mounts for players to use. In order to attract players to play the battlefield mode, there was no lack of rare mounts in the battlefield map, allowing players to have fun before dying. Chapter 1792. Tactics were all about the right time, the right place, and the right people. In terms of numbers, Chun Jiang's duck prophet had the absolute advantage, so a direct confrontation was not going to work. However, Wuji had mentioned from the beginning that it was not necessarily a bad thing for the other party to have more people. In fact, the more people there were, the more advantageous it would be for Chuanjin. After all, the more people there were, the bigger the target would be. Moreover, the discipline and unity would be a lot weaker. Players were just game geeks, not generals who led troops to war. It was already very impressive for them to be able to command thousands of people to advance and retreat in an orderly manner. It was not realistic for them to be able to command people like they were their own arms. In comparison, the 10 or so Chuanjin members worked together much better. Chuanjin's flexible guerrilla tactics were more practical in this kind of situation. However, guerrilla tactics were still very demanding of the commander, especially the control of the terrain. Wuji had a photographic memory. The airship flew over the battlefield. Wuji's eyes were like a scanner, scanning the entire map into his brain. Then, he began to analyze the strategy. After playing the game with Wuji for so long, the Chuanjin members naturally knew what Wuji was doing. Seeing that Wuji was doing something serious, the noisy guys did not even dare to breathe loudly. They all quietly stood behind Wuji, not making a sound. "Let's go." After a while, Wuji waved his hand at everyone and said, "Let's go down." "Where should we jump?" Chun Xiang asked cautiously from the side. "Here." Wuji casually marked the battlefield map. "Here?" Chun Xiang looked down at the coordinates that Wuji had marked. He could not help but wonder, what's the point of this place? The start of the battle mode was very important. As long as one could control the key points, it was not a problem for one man to hold the pass against 10,000 enemies. However, other than the path that Wuji had marked, there was nothing special about it. Chun Xiang thought that he would be better than Wuji. "There's no point. I'll just randomly mark along this path," Wuji said. Chun Xiang was speechless. "Why not mark here or here?" Chun Xiang pointed on the map 3 times. "Because I am the commander-in-chief." Wuji smiled and took the lead to jump off the airship. He unfolded the glider and flew to the marked location. Although Chun Xiang was unhappy with Wuji's attitude, everyone knew that Wuji was such a coward. His tactics would even harm his own people. Of course, he would not explain it to anyone. Since Wuji had marked it this way, he must have his reasons. Although he was unhappy, Chun Xiang still jumped down after Wuji, and the others followed closely behind. While Wuji was researching his strategy, on the other side of the airship, Spring River Warm Duck Prophet. From now on, the guild's name was too long, and it was inconvenient to fight. Also, there was the suspicion of the number of words, water. The players of Spring River Warm Duck Prophet were also in shock. "No way. How can a guild with 11 players be so sure? It was obvious that the players of Spring River Warm Duck Prophet were very surprised by Chuanjin and the others' choice to enter the battlefield. Logically speaking, with such a huge difference in strength, the other side should have been matched up again. However, Chuanjin chose the most impossible answer. They did not know whether these people were brave or a bunch of idiots. Actually, logically speaking, the players of Spring River Warm Duck Prophet were also very opposed to Chuanjin's suicidal behavior. They had close to 1,000 people on their side, but the other side only had a dozen or so. Not only would it be dishonorable to win, but the 11 points were also not enough. It was a complete waste of time. Chuanjin? These unscrupulous fellows do have some reputation. Just as everyone was in shock, the boss of Spring River Warm Duck Prophet, Fei Tianda, could not help but raise his eyebrows when he saw the name Chuanjin. Having been in the gaming circle for so long, Fei Tianda had naturally heard of this group of roving bandits. Especially after the motley crew under Chuanjin took over the Professional League Management Bureau, Chuanjin's name became even more famous. Although there were people who questioned it later, Chuanjin's reputation was now known by everyone. Just a dozen or so people fighting against close to 1,000 people was really out of Fei Tianda's expectations. Fei Tianda could not help but become serious. "Boss, you know these people?" Seeing Fei Tianda's serious expression, a fatty called Scrooge McDuck beside Fei Tianda asked in confusion. "Yes." Fei Tianda nodded and said, "You know about the motley crew, right? It's the team under Chuanjin." "I know." Scrooge McDuck heard this and said, "Isn't it the team that won the national championship through a rigged match? Who doesn't know?" "Rigged match?" Fei Tianda laughed and said, "I don't know if it's true or not, but these guys from Chuanjin are quite good at stirring up trouble. I'm afraid we will be tricked by them." "Is it that exaggerated?" Scrooge McDuck said in surprise, "with just a dozen or so people? In a head-on battle, a dozen or so people naturally won't be able to do much." Fei Tianda said calmly, "I'm just afraid that they will play rogue with us." "Play rogue?" "That's right," Fei Tianda said. "They have fewer people, but we have more people. As long as they occupy an advantageous position, they can casually kill a dozen or so of us. Even if they lose, they will be able to recoup their losses. If we play with them, we will obviously be at a disadvantage." It had to be said that Fei Tianda's eyes were very sharp to be able to make a living in the studio. He actually saw through the thoughts of these guys from Chuanjin with just a glance. "Then what should we do?" Scrooge McDuck thought about Fei Tianda's words and asked with a frown. "Of course we have to eliminate them from the root." Fei Tianda turned his head and looked at the map and said, "Later, we will split into 3 groups. We must occupy these 3 positions." As he said this, Fei Tianda marked 3 positions on the map. If Chun Xiang was here, he would definitely be very surprised. This was because the positions that Fei Tianda marked were exactly the same as the positions that Chun Xiang had marked previously. They were at the city ruins, the high ground at the top of the mountain, and the forest area. Fei Tianda might only be a gaming geek, but he knew the use of the terrain after playing many team battles. There were many houses and bunkers in the city ruins, making it the best place for urban warfare. The high ground at the top of the mountain had a wide field of view, and it was used to defend the stronghold. The only supply in the game was potions. As long as there were enough potions, a few people would be able to defend the stronghold. The visibility in the forest area was low, making it suitable for ambushes and roaming in the field. A small and nimble team like Chuanjin would definitely have a huge advantage here. These 3 positions were easy to defend and hard to attack. As long as Chuanjin attacked any one of them, they could rely on the terrain and become a difficult bone to chew. Chapter 1793. Following Fei Tianda's command, the players from Spring River Warm River disembarked from the airship. They split into 3 groups and flew towards the 3 locations that Fei Tianda had marked out. Chuanjun and the others had already landed on the ground. They were hiding in the bushes and observing the enemy's movements. The Spring River heating players descended from the sky, attracting the attention of Chuanjun's members. It had to be said that the sight of nearly 1,000 gliders unfolding in the air was rather spectacular. Looking from below, it was like a dark mass of dark clouds. The atmosphere was extremely frightening. Quantitative change led to qualitative change. When there was a sufficient number of gliders, no matter what they did, it would be shocking. Damn, they are, seeing the Spring River heating players split into 3 groups and fly in 3 different directions, Chun Xiang was slightly stunned. A trace of fear flashed in his eyes. He immediately turned to look at Wu Ji, not knowing what to say. With Chun Xiang's intelligence, it was naturally not difficult for him to figure out where the Spring River heating players were headed. Fortunately, Wu Ji did not listen to him. Otherwise, Chuanjun would have been sent down from the sky. Faced with Chun Xiang's astonished gaze, Wu Ji smiled faintly and said, "The other party is not an NPC. If you can think of something, how can others not think of it? Now that they have split up their forces, which team are we going to kill next?" Wang Yu asked solemnly as he shielded his eyes with his hand and looked at the Spring River heating players in the sky. "Old cow, can we be more reserved?" Hearing Wang Yu's words, Chuanjun's members broke out in a cold sweat. Great, this guy's thinking is too bold. In his eyes, only 1,000 opponents are worthy of being taken seriously. Even if 300 to 400 people split up, they can still kill one team easily. Damn, 300 to 400 people are still people, alright? Can you not be so reckless? You are hurting their pride. Just wait patiently. Wu Ji waved his hand and said, "We can't use wings in this map. We are all normal people. If we charge in like this, we are basically seeking death." "That's right. Wu Ji, this is what a human should say. Old cow, who do you think you are?" Hearing Wu Ji's words, everyone pointed their middle fingers at Wang Yu. Spring River Warm Waters players weren't easy to deal with. Even if their individual levels weren't as high as Chuanjun's, they wouldn't be too far off. They might even be stronger than elite players from big guilds like Blood Alliance. Wang Yu was invincible. He had a full set of divine weapons and all sorts of displacement skills. Facing such an opponent, he would naturally be able to escape unscathed. However, the others were all normal people. How could they compare to a monster like Wang Yu? A dozen people facing 300 or 400 people head-on was no different from being descended from the heavens. It was meaningless for Wu Ji to avoid the main battlefield. Wait, don't tell me you plan to stay here forever? Wang Yu was also a little surprised. The guild battlefield would eventually shrink. Hiding here definitely wasn't a solution. If they didn't take advantage of the early stages of the battle to kill as many players as possible, the longer the battle progressed, the more difficult it would become. Wu Ji laughed again. "No, they definitely won't stay here for long. They'll be here soon." "How do you know?" Seeing how Wu Ji said it so naturally, To Place One's Pride asked doubtfully. Wu Ji retorted, "If we had thousands of people, would you wait for them to come? You're amazing." To Place One's Pride thought about it and gave Wu Ji a thumbs up in admiration. People's mentality would always change according to their environment. When they were strong, they would definitely chase after weaker opponents. Immediately after, Wu Ji said, "Everyone, take this chance to look for mounts nearby. If you can use them, ride them back. If you can't, kill them." Okay. After receiving Wu Ji's orders, everyone lowered their heads and quietly dispersed. Only Wang Yu was puzzled and asked, "Why are we looking for mounts?" "For running." Wu Ji smiled. "We'll have to run later when the circle shrinks." The mobility of a guerrilla fighter was key. Mounts were naturally indispensable. "Alright." Wang Yu responded and left the gathering point. At the same time, the Spring River Warm players had all landed. After landing on the city ruins, Fei Tianda stood on the rooftop and looked down. Seeing that there were no signs of the Quanzhen players, he anxiously asked in the guild channel. We haven't found the target at point C. What about the other two areas? Very quickly, Scrooge McDuck, who led a group of people to land on the hilltop, replied. No targets found at point A. What about point B? Old Tang? Fei Tienda asked in the guild channel after seeing that there were no targets at point A. After a while, the leader of the other group, Donald, also replied, no targets found at point B either. Fei Tienda could not help but be stunned when he saw the message from the two of them. He asked in bewilderment, nothing? Did you guys look around? Scrooge McDuck was speechless. Boss, we are on the hilltop. There's nothing around us. They can't hide. It's the same here. Donald followed up. The forest here is not dense. We can see it with just a few hundred people. Did you not search your area? This, Fei Tienda's face turned slightly red after being reminded by Donald. There was no better place to hide than houses. There were so many houses in the city ruins. It was possible that Chuanzhen's group was hiding in one of them. Don't worry about these details. The people from the Quanzhen sect are very cunning. It's very likely that they discovered our intentions when we landed. That's why they ran elsewhere. You guys should search around before coming to a conclusion. After giving instructions to Scrooge McDuck, Fei Tienda closed the message window and ordered the people around him. Everyone, search the houses. Don't alert them if there are any suspicious targets. Send the coordinates first. Yes. At Fei Tienda's command, the players from Spring River Heater started searching the city ruins. While Fei Tienda and the others were doing a carpet search, Chuanzhen's group returned from all directions on their mounts. In order to make the battlefield mode more attractive to players, the designers had put in a lot of effort, especially the mounts. The mounts that were rare in the game could be seen everywhere. It made up for the players who could only ride horses. Chuanzhen's group went out for a stroll and came back with all sorts of mounts. Mingdu, in particular, brought back a dragon from God knows where. He was showing off. Starry Sky Dragon. Awesome, right? It's a legendary God-tier mount that increases speed by 360%. This group of people could even compare themselves to each other. Seeing how arrogant Mingdu was, the others curled their lips in disdain. Chapter 1794. Bulsh *T. To place one's pride pointed at his chicken-like mount with an unconvinced expression. My dancing fire beast is also a god-tier beast. Not only does it increase speed by 360%, it can also be used by two people. Aunt Meng, I'll sit with you later. To place one's pride did not forget to express goodwill to Exquisite Meng. Scram! Exquisite Meng's face darkened. Either call me Grandma Meng or Big Sister Meng. Aunt Meng, screw you. To place one's pride was embarrassed after being snubbed. He quickly pretended to look around to ease the tense atmosphere. However, at this moment, he saw Wang Yu walking over from afar, leading a few strange animals. Those monsters wore red and white pointed hats on their heads, and scarves that were similar in color to the hats were wrapped around their neck. Two horns protruded from their heads like tree branches, and their large eyes flickered. They looked quite cute. Behind these monsters was a sleigh. The sleigh was also decorated with colorful decorations, looking very childish. To place one's pride would definitely find it very cute if it was a beautiful girl leading these monsters. However, Wang Yu was an 8 feet tall man who killed people like scything flax, leading a bunch of cute animals. The contrast was somewhat irresistible. What's that? To place one's pride's eyes widened when he saw the animals Wang Yu was leading. The others saw to place one's pride's expression and hurriedly followed to place one's pride's gaze. When they saw the animals in Wang Yu's hands, they all revealed the same expression as to place one's pride. Ha ha ha! After a long time, the crowd burst into laughter. They pointed at Wang Yu and mocked, "Damn, old cow, your girl's heart is bursting." Wang Yu was confused by everyone's sudden mockery. He stood there in a daze, giving off a cute aura. Why did you make this thing? What the hell is this? Wuji asked, trying hard not to laugh. I think it's a reindeer. Wang Yu rubbed his chin and sent out the mount's attributes. Christmas sleigh mount, God tier, movement speed plus 360% seating capacity, 12 people. Requirements, advanced horsemanship. Seeing the attributes of Wang Yu's mount, everyone's mocking laughter came to an abrupt halt. They excitedly pointed at the adorable reindeer and exclaimed, "A mount for 10-12 people?" Mounts in Rebirth were usually single-player mounts. The higher the tier, the higher the movement speed bonus, and the higher the number of players riding it. For example, although the dancing fire-flowing flame beast was ugly, it was much more useful than the Star Dragon due to the fact that it was a two-person mount that increased its movement speed by 360%. But Wang Yu actually brought back a 12-person mount. Was this kid destined to be the main character of the legends? Wuji looked at the attributes of the Christmas sleigh next to Wang Yu and immediately narrowed his eyes. Looks like we'll have to change our strategy this time. Hearing Wuji's words, everyone was confused. What do you mean, Wuji? Hee. Wuji chuckled and said slowly, I originally wanted to use the advantage of mobility to fight guerrilla warfare. Now we can save some energy. Wuji's words always made people confused. At this moment, it was even more confusing. Let's go. Get on. Just when everyone was at a loss, Wuji lifted his leg and stepped onto the sleigh. Although the others did not know what Wuji was up to, this kid was used to being mysterious. Everyone also knew his personality. There was no need to ask, they just followed. Therefore, when Wuji got on, everyone else jumped on the sleigh. Go. At the front, Wuji pulled the reindeer's reins and shouted. The sleigh moved forward at an extremely fast speed. It was their first time riding such a high-end mount, so everyone was quite excited. But soon, everyone realized that something was wrong. That's not right. Chun Xiang, who was next to Wuji, looked at the direction the sleigh was moving in and said in fear, Wuji, you're going in the wrong direction. You're going to face the opponent head-on. The direction Wuji was heading in was the direction where Spring River Worms players had landed. Wuji smiled and explained, when we first entered the battlefield, it was head-on, but not now. Why? Chun Xiang asked with a frown. Because they're looking for us all over the mountains and plains. Wuji smiled. War wasn't a group fight. You needed to use your brain. Strategy was naturally to attack the heart. Those who couldn't hold back and took the initiative to attack would definitely reveal an opening. Even though Wuji hadn't seen Fei Tianda's face before, from the moment he entered the battlefield, Wuji had already grasped Fei Tianda's mind. In the following battles, Spring Nuan naturally had to follow the Quanjin sect's lead by the nose. Chun Xiang's players landed in 3 different directions in order to surround Chuanjin. It wasn't hard to see that Fei Tianda was a person who was eager for quick success. In order to win the battle, he split Chun Xiang into 3 smaller units. Although his forces were scattered, they still weren't something a dozen people could deal with. The reason why Wuji didn't immediately attack and instead went to look for a mount was because Wuji had seen through this point. He knew that after Fei Tianda landed and didn't find Chuanjin, he would definitely order Chun Xiang's players to conduct a carpet search of Chuanjin. At that time, Chun Xiang's forces would be completely scattered. Could a guild that had its strength divided still be called a guild? It was a group of small teams that didn't care about each other. At that moment, Chuanjin's players who had found their mounts were far more mobile than Chun Xiang's players. With their mobility advantage, it was basically a matter of time before they could take down these scattered teams. Of course, guerrilla warfare still required him to wander around the map in search of lone squads. It required a lot of effort to be able to appear and disappear without a hitch. However, now that he had the snow sled, everything became much easier. The speed of the snow sled went without saying. It didn't take long for Chuanzhen's group to arrive at the outskirts of the mountainous terrain. Wu Ji stopped his sleigh far away. He took out his spectacles and put them on the bridge of his nose to take a look. He saw that the players from Spring River Heating Company had split up into dozens of small teams and were walking towards the foot of the mountain while looking around. Get off, get off! Wu Ji waved at Chuanzhen's players and jumped off the snow sled. He rolled into the bushes at the side. Seeing this, the others followed closely behind and hid in the bushes. Old cow! After everyone hid, Wu Ji smiled evilly and pointed at the Chun Xiang's players on the hillside. You go and be the bait. It shouldn't be a problem to lure them over, right? It's nothing. Chapter 1795. Looking at Wang Yu's back as he left, Wu Ji turned around and pointed in two other directions. He said to Baiming Yu and Mingjian Daoxue, "You guys go over there and show them around. Wait for my orders later." The Spring River Heating Company players spread out. It seemed like their forces were scattered and could be easily defeated. However, it was unrealistic to nibble away at them bit by bit. After all, the Spring River Heating Company players were not fools. The number of players on the battlefield was displayed. If their companions disappeared in groups, it would definitely attract the attention of other players. When that happened, they would definitely gather together again. Therefore, cutting flesh with a blunt knife would not work here. They had to gather these people together and swallow them up before they could react. 300 people was too many. It was impossible to swallow them all in one bite. It would be easier to swallow them in 3 bites. Understood. After playing the game with Wu Ji for so long, Mingjian Daoxue and the others could naturally guess Wu Ji's intentions. The two of them moved and disappeared into thin air. On the hillside, Scrooge McDuck was holding a blade of grass in his mouth. He sat on a high place and ordered his subordinates to search the mountain. His face was filled with impatience. It was obvious that Scrooge McDuck had a lot of opinions about Fei Tianda's orders. Pfft! Seeing that his subordinates had searched from the hillside to the foot of the hill and had not found a single person, Scrooge McDuck spat out the grass in his mouth and said unhappily, "Do you think boss is crazy? It's just dealing with a dozen people. Is there a need to make such a big fuss? Search the mountain, my ass. These guys are probably playing hide and seek somewhere." That's right. Besides Scrooge McDuck, a warrior with a large shield who was shouting, Uncle Duck echoed, "If you ask me, I think we should gather together and wait for the map to shrink. Those B***stards can hide for a while, but they can't hide forever. Sooner or later, they will have to face us head-on." "That's impossible," Scrooge McDuck said gloomily. "It's not like you don't know boss's temper. There are so many of us. Do you think he will wait for others to find us?" "That's true." Uncle Salted Duck sighed silently. Spring River Water Heating Company was a workshop guild, and Fei Tianda, the guild leader, was the boss. Disobeying the boss was equivalent to destroying one's own job, so one had no choice but to obey. Someone seems to be coming over there. Just as the two of them were feeling gloomy, Scrooge McDuck raised his head and saw a silhouette pass through the searchline. The silhouette was running up the slope from the foot of the mountain. The man was tall and muscular, dressed like a grandmaster of combat. It was Wang Yu, whom Wu Ji had sent as bait. Wang Yu was very aware that he was going to be the bait. He did not hide at all and swaggered up the mountain, but to Wang Yu's surprise, the players from Spring River Warm Water completely ignored him. However, when he thought about it, there was nothing wrong with it. Spring River Warm Waters Guild had close to 1,000 members. Although it wasn't to the extent that they didn't know each other, the majority of them were just familiar faces and knew each other's names. They weren't particularly familiar with each other, so they were used to seeing unfamiliar faces. If Wang Yu was sneaking up the mountain, the players from Spring River Warm Water Heating Company would definitely stop Wang Yu and interrogate him. However, when Wang Yu walked into the crowd so openly, the players treated Wang Yu as one of their own. Even Scrooge McDuck, who was on the slope, thought that Wang Yu was a player from his own guild. The reason why he rushed up the mountain was that he had something to say to the leader. So Scrooge McDuck stood up and called out to Wang Yu, "Over here, I'm over here." Actually, Wang Yu did not know who to look for. Wang Yu was puzzled that no one was paying attention to him. When he saw someone stand up and call him over, Wang Yu did not hesitate and ran toward Scrooge McDuck. Wang Yu's movement speed was so fast that he was not far away from Scrooge McDuck in the blink of an eye. "Huh? You are?" As Wang Yu got closer and closer, when he saw Wang Yu's class clearly, Scrooge McDuck suddenly felt that something was wrong. As a sewer class in Rebirth, Grandmasters of Combat were not very popular. As a commercial guild, Spring River Warm Water Heating Company was very cautious in recruiting members. That was why there were only a few Grandmasters of Combat in the guild. Scrooge McDuck knew all of them, but he had never seen such a muscular Grandmaster of Combat. In the blink of an eye, Wang Yu was already less than 10 meters away from Scrooge McDuck and Uncle Salted Duck. At this distance, Wang Yu's appearance and attire were very clear. Scrooge McDuck frowned and lowered his head to take a glance at Wang Yu's chest. He saw a dazzling yin-yang fish hanging on Wang Yu's chest where the guild badge should be. Seeing the yin-yang fish, Scrooge McDuck felt his head buzzing. He pointed at Wang Yu in fear and said, "You are from Chuanjin." "Yes." As soon as Scrooge McDuck finished speaking, Wang Yu had already rushed in front of Scrooge McDuck. After saying yes, Wang Yu took a step forward and pushed his right shoulder forward. After saying Wang Yu's shoulder slammed heavily into Scrooge McDuck's chest. Iron Mountain Backrest. A Grandmaster of Combat level 30 skill. The damage was not very high, but it had a very strong knockback effect. Bang! Scrooge McDuck felt a huge force coming from his chest. He was sent flying by Wang Yu's shoulder. Scrooge McDuck was a magician, so his HP was not very high. Although Wang Yu's skill was mainly for crowd control, the HP bar above Scrooge McDuck's head dropped to the bottom. Without waiting for Scrooge McDuck to fall to the ground, Wang Yu leaped up and stepped on Scrooge McDuck's chest. Scrooge McDuck did not even have a chance to make a sound before he was crushed into a white light by Wang Yu's foot. Uncle Salted Duck's eyes widened when he saw this scene. Uncle Salted Duck did not expect this guy who ran all the way here without anyone stopping him to be the target of his Chuanjin team. Uncle Salted Duck did not know what had happened, but Scrooge McDuck was sent flying by Wang Yu's Iron Mountain Backrest. When Uncle Salted Duck realized what had happened, Scrooge McDuck had already been stomped to death by Wang Yu's foot. "I'm going to kill you." Uncle Salted Duck was a shield warrior who specialized in protecting his teammate. It was a great humiliation for a shield warrior to watch his teammate get stomped to death. In a rage, Uncle Salted Duck raised his shield and charged at Wang Yu's back. Wang Yu was not flustered at all. He stood firmly with both his legs and crossed his palms. Puff! Wang Yu's right arm ignited into a ball of raging flames. Chapter 1796. Flaming Blade. Epic skill activates inner strength to the limit to deal massive fire damage in an instant. Unstoppable. Kills targets whose level is higher than yours. MP cost. 30% cooldown. 60-second skill introduction. The martial god's most prideful palm technique. Using the palm as a blade, it attacks the target with internal energy. It is unstoppable and overbearing. Only martial arts experts who cultivate both internal and external energy can practice this technique. The special effect of the Flaming Blade skill was very simple. It wasn't even as flashy as the special effect of Oscillating Fist. However, this skill was a genuine epic skill. Wang Yu's skill set was magnificent, but he didn't have many active skills that were above epic level. Apart from Martial God's Kick and Toppling the Mountains, there was only Thunder Stomp. These skills were extremely powerful. Not to mention insta-killing a player, they could even insta-kill a boss in a matter of minutes. One could only imagine the power of the flaming blade to be on par with these skills. Wang Yu's knife hand chopped down on Uncle Salted Duck's shield. A dazzling red light flashed, and Uncle Salted Duck and his shield were cut in half on the spot. Moreover, he didn't even make a sound. The sharpness of the flaming saber could be imagined. What's going on? The battle on the hillside caused quite a commotion, especially when Uncle Salted Duck roared. It attracted the attention of everyone at the foot of the hill. When everyone looked over, Uncle Salted Duck and Scrooge McDuck had both died in Wang Yu's hands. This time there was an uproar. Motherf ** Ker, Chuanjian's turtles are on the hillside. Don't let them escape. No one knew who shouted, but the Spring River Heating Company players, who were originally scattered at the foot of the hill, were like flies that had seen feces. All of them rushed toward Wang Yu's direction, trying to outdo each other. This was the effect that Wang Yu wanted. Seeing that the Spring River Heating Company players had noticed him, Wang Yu chuckled. He didn't retreat. Instead, he charged forward. In an instant, he was right in front of the Spring River Heating Company players. As a guild that relied on fighting in the arena for a living, the Spring River Heating Company players were very skilled in combat. Although Scrooge McDuck was killed by Wang Yu, these players didn't need to be commanded. They gathered together and formed a formation in front of Wang Yu. Wang Yu had been hunted down many times since he started playing the game. Being surrounded by hundreds of players was nothing to Wang Yu. Wang Yu activated lightness skill and leaped into the air. He spread his arms and flew over the Spring River Heating Company players as if he was walking on flat ground. That's right, she could fly. Qin Gong was similar to other classes' mounts. However, at the end of the day, it was still a player's skill. Hence, Wang Yu could use Qin Gong in this map. After learning the lightning riding art, Wang Yu's Qin Gong would allow her to hover in the air. Not to mention a defensive line of several hundred players, as long as she had enough Qin Gong points, Wang Yu could traverse mountains and ravines with just a few words. Damn, there's such a thing? Lightness skills were extremely rare. Lightness skills like Wang Yu's that allowed him to fly in the air were even rarer. Ordinary players naturally wouldn't have seen such a shameless skill. Seeing Wang Yu fly over their heads, the Spring River Heating Company players were dumbfounded. Of course, Wang Yu was here to act as bait, not to show off his lightness skill. After passing by the Spring River Heating Company players, Wang Yu cancelled his lightness skill and landed on the ground. He gave the Spring River Heating Company players the middle finger in ridicule before turning around and running down the mountain. The Spring River Heating Company players had been looking for Wang Yu and the others for a long time. They had been suppressing their resentment for a long time. Now that they were being ridiculed by Wang Yu, they naturally couldn't take it anymore. The players behind Wang Yu didn't say anything and immediately chased after them. At the same time, the space on both sides of the Spring River Heating Company players' formation distorted. North Siyu and Mingjian Daoshua also appeared. Come and catch me, idiot. If you catch me, I'll let you, hee. Mingjian Daoshua had the style of a Chuanjian dog. His coquettish appearance made even North Siyu want to go over and give him a few kicks, let alone the Spring River Heating Company players. Originally, everyone was chasing after Wang Yu. Now that they were provoked by Mingjian Daoshua, the players closest to Mingjian Daoshua turned around and started chasing after him. North Siyu was a reserved person. Naturally, she couldn't do something as despicable as Mingjian Daoshua. However, she was also a person of few words. She didn't even let out a fart. She activated swift movement and charged into the crowd. She raised her hand and instantly killed two fragile players. F***CK. How could they endure being killed so close to them? As a result, the Spring River Heating Company players on the other side gave up on Wang Yu and went straight for North Siyu. The 300 or so Spring River Heating Company players finally gathered together. Under the bait of Wang Yu's group, they split into three. Each of the three brought 100 or so people and ran in three different directions. At the same time, Donald and Fei Tienda's group, who were searching in the forest and the ruins of the city, also received news that Xuanzhen was at the foot of the mountain. As a result, the two sides gave up their original positions and surrounded the mountain slope. At this time, Wang Yu had already led the 100 or so people behind him to the location where Wu Ji and the others were lying in ambush. He threw down a cloning skill and disappeared from everyone's sight. Seeing the target they were chasing disappear, the Spring River Heating Company players were dumbfounded. The team was in chaos. What's going on? Why did the people in front follow? Why did they chase him until he disappeared? None of my business. The players in the front row were unconvinced. We're all short-legged. Why didn't you players in the back row follow? F***CK. That bastard could even kill Uncle Duck. Are you telling us to go and die? Hearing the players in the front row push the blame to themselves, the players in the back row were also dissatisfied. Everyone, stop arguing. Seeing that they were about to start fighting, a mage suddenly shouted, "What's the use of arguing? That kid can't have gone far. Everyone, look around carefully. Who knows where he might be lying in the bushes?" After being reminded by the mage, the noisy Spring River Heating Company players immediately calmed down and started looking around. At this time, a strange-looking snow sled appeared in front of everyone. It's a mount. Seeing the snow sled not far away, the eyes of the Spring River Heating Company players were instantly attracted. It was a battlefield map, after all. Apart from killing people, finding a mount was also the most important part of the map. Now that they saw a mount, Spring River's warm water reacted this way purely out of instinct. Everyone cast detection at the sleigh, and the sleigh's attributes immediately appeared before everyone's eyes. Christmas Snow Sled, Celestial, F***CK. It's a multiplayer celestial mount. Mine. I saw it first. F***CK, it belongs to whoever rides it first. Seeing the attributes of the Christmas Snow Sled, everyone became excited. They didn't care where Wang Yu was and ran toward the snow sled while shouting. Chapter 1797. Online Games. I am a martial arts scholar, currently typing, please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1798. God-tier mounts were things that could only be encountered by luck, not by searching for. Furthermore, this snow sleigh was a multi-person mount, so it was naturally the rarest of the rarest. Even if the items inside the battlefield couldn't be brought out, being able to ride this snow sleigh around the battlefield was a symbol of luck, wasn't it? Hee. However, Wu Ji, who was in the bushes, smirked when he saw the players surrounding him. He gestured to Chun Xiang, Mingdo, and the others behind him, and at the same time, he sent a message to Ming Jian, Daoxue, lure the second wave over. 100 players wasn't too many, but it wasn't too few either. Everyone surrounded the sleigh, forming a circle. Following Wuji's signal, Spring Soaring waved his staff, casting a dark barrier. Boom! Just as the players from Spring River Heating Company were surrounding the sleigh, a black circle rose from the ground, trapping all of them inside. By the time the players from Spring River Heating Company reacted, they were all frozen in place. Not good, it's an ambush. The players from Spring River Heating Company who were under attack were startled, realizing that they had fallen into a trap. Before they could resist, they suddenly felt the ground beneath their feet heat up. A sea of flames rose from the ground, and dense lightning bolts descended from the sky. Bright Doe was an extreme fellow. His magic damage and basic attributes had already reached the pinnacle. Including the Vermilion Bird Staff's bonus fire-type spells, his damage could only be described as terrifying. After a wave of magic was cast, the players from Spring River Heating Company turned into white light and were teleported out of the battlefield. When the flames dissipated, only a dozen or so tanky players remained from the original team of over 100 players. One skill had taken out over 100 players, and it was clear just how high Mingdu's damage was. As for the survivors who were hit by Mingdu's magic, although they didn't die on the spot, the health bars above their heads had already turned red. Yang Na and Exquisite Dreams attacks took out a few more people, and there were less than 10 Spring River Heating Company players left. In a one-on-one situation, Chuanjin wasn't afraid of anyone. Wang Yu, Bao San, and the others rushed forward and killed all of the survivors. From the moment the team of over 100 players appeared to the moment they were wiped out, not even 20 seconds had passed. "Grandsons, come and chase me!" After Wang Yu and the others annihilated the first wave of Spring River Worms players, they dragged the sled into a nearby bush. At this moment, Mingjian Daoshua ran over from another direction with over 100 players behind him. As he ran, Mingjian Daoshua did not forget to harass them with words. "Don't run if you have the balls." Spring River's water heater's counterattack was also childish. If they didn't run, were they supposed to wait for you to kill them? Very quickly, Mingjian Daoshua ran to the bushes where the sled was hidden. Chuckling, he activated stealth and disappeared from everyone's sight. F***CK. Shameless. Seeing that Mingjian Daoshua had disappeared, Spring River's warm water skillfully took out the scouting guard and stuck it in the spot where Mingjian Daoshua had disappeared. Then, the sled appeared before everyone's eyes. This is? Looking at the sled in the grass, the players in Spring River looked at each other. They were just players a moment ago. How did they become like this? Puzzled, everyone cast detection spells on it. The sleigh's attributes once again appeared before the players. Wuji was right. A new trick was not a new trick. It was fine as long as it worked, as expected of players from the same guild. After seeing the sleigh's attributes, their reaction was exactly the same as the previous wave of players. A group of people surged forward with a bang. Hee. Wuji smiled again and gestured to the people behind him. Then, he sent a message to Baimingyu. Next wave. Dark barrier. Rise. Heavenly lightning, earthen fire. Fall. Arrow rain filled the gap. Melee players filled the gap. Flash shadow chain kick. Army breaking rising dragon slash. Fuel drain. It was another set of perfect coordination. The second wave of Spring River's players was also wiped out. After cleaning up the battlefield, Baimingyu led the third wave of Spring River's players into the encirclement. Everyone used the same trick again, using crowd control instead of attack to take them down in one go. In less than 3 minutes, the 337 people in Old Duck McDuck's party were wiped out. I'm so strong. I'm invincible. Mingdu was the main damage output in this ambush. As the chief cannon, Mingdu had obtained nearly 300 points. His confidence was inflated. If nothing went wrong, as long as this continued, the MVP of this match would definitely be Mingdu. It was already extremely difficult to snatch the MVP from the hands of the old dogs of Chuanjin. Moreover, there was a monster like Wang Yu in Chuanjin. Ever since Wang Yu joined Chuanjin, no matter what kind of battle Wang Yu fought, they would always be suppressed by Wang Yu. To be able to snatch the MVP from Wang Yu, it was clear that Mingdu's MVP status was very high. It was definitely enough for Mingdu to brag about it for the rest of his life. Alright, stop talking nonsense. Just as Mingdu was feeling proud, Wuji poured cold water on him. This place is useless. Let's go. Leave. Mingdu was surprised. Aren't you going to set up a few more ambushes? Don't tell me you knew I was going to take the MPV, so you changed your strategy on purpose? Mingdu's doubt was not without reason. With Wuji's character, it was not rare for him to do such a thing. Ambush my ass, Wuji said in disdain. Do you think the other side is stupid? There was no reaction from so many people dying. 3 ambushes was already our limit. Spring River Heating Company had a total of more than 900 players. Scrooge McDuck and the other 337 players were 1/3 of the total. With a sudden loss of 1/3 of their members, Even if the other side was stupid, they could see that it was a trap. In fact, when the first wave of Spring River Heating Company players was killed, the others had already noticed it. However, the other two teams were being kited by Baiming Yu and Mingjian Daoshu. As the authorities, they naturally did not have the time to care about the number of people on their side. However, Fei Tianda and Donald's team were bystanders. Of course, they could see it clearly. Seeing the number of people on their side suddenly drop by more than 300, Fei Tianda and Donald were stunned on the spot. Fei Tianda and Donald sent a message to Scrooge McDuck at the same time. "Mike, Uncle Duck, what happened?" In the end, the system replied calmly, "The players you contacted are not in the service area. F***CK. Looking at the system's reply, Fei Tianda and Donald broke out in a cold sweat. 337 players were gone just like that. Even if there were more than 300 steamed buns, it was impossible to finish them in such a short period of time. What was more terrifying was that they lost more than 300 people on their side, but the number of players on the other side did not decrease 11 versus more than 300 players, and the whole team was wiped out without any casualties? Just thinking about it was unbelievable. Could it be a supernatural event or a system bug? If it did not happen to him, a rational person like Fei Tianda would definitely not believe such nonsense. Remember this book's domain name, mobile version. Chapter 1799. Illusion. It must be an illusion. On the other side, Donald rubbed his eyes as he looked at the score above his head. It was obvious that he could not believe this reality. Old Tang, don't go to the mountainous area. Hurry to the city ruins. Just when Donald was at a loss of what to do, Fei Tianda sent him a message. As the guild leader, Fei Tianda was quite skilled. Although he did not know how Chuanjin managed to eliminate 300 players without suffering any damage, the truth was right in front of him. It was undeniable. Based on the number of players, it was a little exaggerated for 11 players to eliminate 300 players. However, it was not impossible. From the looks of it, the biggest possibility is that the Quan Zhen sect picked up some strategic weapons on the battlefield or found some trap. No matter what, these guys did have the means to eliminate 300 players. Donald's team was not as strong as Scrooge McDuck's team. Scrooge McDuck's team was reduced to ashes in an instant. This showed how powerful the opponents were. Even if they sent another 300 players, it would only be a matter of adding firewood. Instead of sending Donald to his death, it was better for everyone to gather together. There was strength in numbers, and their chances of winning would be higher if everyone gathered together. Moreover, the more powerful a weapon was, the less mobile it was. This was even more true for traps. The terrifying equipment that could instantly kill 300 players was most likely a fixed turret that could not be moved. As such, once the battlefield shrank, Chuanjin's team would definitely be forced to throw away their weapons. Without the terrifying weapons and traps, wouldn't it be a piece of cake to send 11 players? Alright, I'll head over now. Donald nodded and ordered his subordinates to change their direction and march toward the city ruins. Fei Tianda also ordered his subordinates to return the way they came. On the battlefield, the forest, the mountainous area, and the city ruins were distributed according to the character. The mountainous area that Chuanjin's team was currently at was in the middle of the forest and the city ruins. Fei Tianda's team had just left the city ruins not long ago. They had not traveled far, so it would only take them a while to return. However, Donald's team was slightly further away. Old dog Wuji, don't you dare trick me. Otherwise, I'll kill you too. On Chuanjin's side, Mingdu was still talking nonsense with Wuji. It was not easy for this kid to win an MVP under Wang Yu. Naturally, he did not want to be cheated by Wuji. Wuji was really annoyed by Mingdu's harassment. He waved his hand and said, "Whoever drags him out, I will give him 10,000 gold." But Wang Yu stretched out his palm and pressed Mingdu to the side. Although Mingdu was audacious and dared to argue with anyone, He was still very self-aware in front of Wang Yu. Wang Yu's slap stunned Mingdu, and he didn't dare to speak anymore. At this time, Wang Yu picked up where Mingdu left off and asked, "If we're not going to ambush them, where are we going now?" Wuji chuckled and jumped onto the sleigh. Then, he turned around and said, "This is the place where we just landed. Everyone, get on the sleigh. Otherwise, it will be too late." Seeing that Wuji was so urgent, everyone didn't think much and quickly jumped onto the sleigh again. As Wang Yu got on the sleigh, he asked inexplicably, "Why do we have to go back again?" Wuji said with a smile, "This question is very simple. If we were killed inexplicably, what would you do?" "I'll go up and avenge you." Wang Yu's answer was simple and crude. F***CKU. Hearing Wang Yu's answer, Wuji spat out a mouthful of old blood. Well, Wuji shouldn't have asked Wang Yu this question. This master was still the same as before. He was so honest that it made people feel sorry for him. It was not the kind of heartache that everyone understood, but the kind of heartache that pierced the hearts of ordinary people. Of course, Wuji also knew that if someone else said this, they would definitely be bragging, but Wang Yu said this with confidence. After all, he had such strength. "Use a normal answer, Brother Chun." Wuji turned his head and asked Chun Xiang as he drove. "About this." Chun Xiang pondered for a moment and said, "Everyone's strength is about the same. If you were killed, the opponent would definitely be stronger than one of us. If it were me, I would definitely avoid the spearhead and find others to meet up. Then, we would beat them up together." "See, this is normal thinking," Wuji said earnestly. "Old cow, you have to take care of the emotions of normal people like us in the future." Wuji continued, "They divided themselves into 3 parts, and we devoured 1/3 of them in one fell swoop. Now, the remaining 2 parts of them have received a shock. Just like what Brother Chun said, they will quickly find their companions to help each other." Speaking up to this point, Wuji marked on the big map and said, "The place where we landed just now is by the roadside. That road is the only way from the forest to the city ruin, so we need to ambush on this road now and eat up the other group of people." The strength of Chun Xiang's players was not weak. The city ruin and the forest were maps that were easy to defend and hard to attack. If the remaining people of the opponent were to meet up in any of the maps, it would not be good for Chuanjin. If they could eliminate the other half halfway, the rest would be easier. After Donald's group received the order, they immediately ran in the direction of the city ruin. They were already moving at top speed, but they had a lot of people after all. They had to take care of the speed of the front line's short legs, so their mobility was naturally not as fast as a small team like Chuanjin's. Moreover, Chuanjin now had the divine sleigh that had 360% acceleration, so their speed was even faster. When Chuanjin's group rushed back to their original landing point, Donald's group was only halfway there. "Continue, continue." When they arrived at the landing point, Wuji called out to everyone to continue with the same strategy as before. Chuanjin's people jumped off the sleigh, threw it on the side of the road, and then went into the bushes. Wang Yu, Mingjian Daoxue, and Baiming Yuyu stood on the side of the road in a daze. What were they thinking? "What are you 3 doing? Go and lure people over." Seeing the 3 of them standing on the side of the road like dumb geese, Wuji was also confused. F***CK, can you do it or not, Wuji? Mingjian Daoxue shielded his eyes with his hands and looked at both sides. "We don't even know where they are, so where do you want us to lure them over? Wasn't that right?" Chuanjin's people did not see the players on the other side along the way, and they did not even know where they were. It would be very awkward if they ran in the wrong direction. "In the direction of the forest." Wuji pointed to the left and said, "This place is so close to the city ruin, and they can't run as fast as us. If we go in that direction, we will definitely meet them." Normal people would not be able to keep up with Wuji's train of thought. He could deduce the enemy's movements from small details. Wasn't that right? Donald's group walked slowly, and they definitely had not reached this place from the forest to the city ruin. The city ruin that Fei Tienda and the others were at was not far away. If they had walked in the direction of the forest, they would have already passed by. Therefore, regardless of whether the other side was gathering in the forest or gathering in the city ruin, they would definitely meet them if they walked in the direction of the forest. Pull up load next chapters. Chapter 1800. Just as Wuji had expected, Wang Yu and the other two did not take long to walk in the direction of the forest before they saw Donald and the others rushing towards the direction of the city ruins. Someone's here. On the other side, Donald's group also saw Wang Yu and the others running toward them. With the lesson learned from Scrooge McDuck's group, Donald's group was much more cautious. Seeing three strangers running toward them, Donald's group tensed up and subconsciously placed their weapons in front of their chests. Of course, as they were too far away, Donald did not dare to confirm that the three people running toward them were Chuanjin's men. To prevent friendly fire, Donald frowned and shouted from afar, "Brothers in front, which group are you from?" "I am from the 386th Brigade Independent Regiment." Ming Jian Daoshua shouted loudly when he heard that. Then, he and Wang Yu continued to charge forward silently. 386th Brigade? What's that? It would have been fine if Ming Jian Daoshua hadn't answered, because Donald would have been certain that these three people were from the Quanzhen sect. However, Ming Jian Daoshua's sudden reply caused Donald and the others to be dumbfounded. They couldn't figure out what exactly the 386th Brigade was. They are not messing with us, are they? Just as everyone was puzzled, a weak voice interrupted everyone's guesses. Hearing his companion's reminder, Donald immediately reacted. He quickly pointed at Wang Yu's group of three and shouted, "Not good! These people are Chuanjin's men. Everyone, attack!" Upon receiving Donald's command, the players from Spring River Heating Company immediately raised their weapons. However, it was already too late. Putting aside other things, Chuanjin was definitely a professional when it came to running away. Wang Yu's skills went without saying. Ming Jian Daoshua and Bai Ming Yuyu were assassins known for their speed. The three of them ran very quickly. Just as Spring River Warm Waters players were deep in thought, the three of them had already arrived near their formation. Before Spring River Warm Waters players could even aim their weapons, Ming Jian Dao Shui and Bai Ming Yuyu had already charged towards the two sides of their formation, one on the left and one on the right. The attacks of the Spring River Heating Company's players were uniformly directed at Wang Yu. The problem with team battles was this uniformity. Truly advanced teamwork was to attack continuously, not giving the opponent a chance to breathe. Only teams that did not have enough teamwork would like to use the most orderly formation to launch a wave of attacks at the target. The only ranged attackers were mages and archers. This was the game world. With the help of the system, the accuracy of archers was extremely high. If everyone shot at the same time, the hit point would naturally be the same. If they attacked in unison, other than the attack power, the damage range would be almost the same as if they were shot by a single person. Ha ha! Wang Yu was a veteran of hundreds of battles. He had been randomly shot at who knew how many times. One look at the Spring River Warm Waters players' attacks and he knew the effect of their attacks. Facing the attacks of the Spring River Warm Waters players, Wang Yu smiled slightly. He suddenly increased the speed of his collapsing fist and instantly crossed a distance of 5 meters. Pooh! Following a muffled sound, countless arrows stuck into the ground behind Wang Yu. At the same time, a large amount of magic descended from the sky and landed on Wang Yu's head. Wang Yu was not in a hurry. He suddenly pounced forward and rolled on the ground. He once again rushed over 3 meters and pounced at the feet of the Spring River Warm Waters players' formation. Seeing this, the Spring River Warm Waters players hurriedly raised their weapons and smashed downward. Meanwhile, Wang Yu's figure flashed and directly appeared in the middle of the Spring River Warm Waters players' formation. He clasped his hands together and a ball of flames surrounded Wang Yu's arms. Immediately after, Wang Yu twisted his waist. Under Wang Yu's movement technique, the crimson flames drew a 3-meter diameter circle with Wang Yu as the center. Whoosh! In a split second, a circle of white light lit up and the crimson flames intertwined. On the spot, there were more than 10 players killed by Wang Yu's flame blade. Instantly, the area around Wang Yu was empty. Luckily, Donald was far away from Wang Yu. Otherwise, he would have been the first to be sent out of the battlefield by Wang Yu. Seeing this scene, the Spring River Warm Waters players could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Everyone was a normal person. They had never seen such an overpowered scene. This Motherf Kerr killed a whole group with one move. If it was a mage, they would not have said anything. However, this guy in front of them was clearly just a grandmaster of combat, yet he had such an overpowered damage output. It was truly shocking. Not only the Spring River Warm Waters players, but even Ming Jian and Daoxue, who were not far away, were shocked. To be able to use a single target attack skill to cause an area of effect attack damage, probably only Wang Yu could do it in the entire game. After killing everyone, Wang Yu did not stop at all. He turned around and jumped out of the encirclement, running away. It was the most exciting thing to run after acting cool. Originally, when the Spring River Warm Water players saw how fierce Wang Yu was, they were all stunned. Not a single person dared to step forward and provoke Wang Yu. At this time, seeing Wang Yu turn around and run, Donald's courage also came out of nowhere. He pointed at Wang Yu's back and shouted, "That brat is done with his 3 moves, don't let him get away. Everyone, chase after him. Chase after him." Receiving Donald's order, the Spring River Warm Water players began to chase after Wang Yu without thinking. Of course, North Siyu and Ming Jian and Daoxue both knew what they were here for. Therefore, the two of them rushed to the enemy's left and right, raised their daggers and started a massacre at the back row. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. White lights lit up one after another, and in an instant, the two of them had killed 7 to 8 brittle archers. There are still experts behind them. You guys chase after the ones in front, we'll deal with the 2 at the back. With the back row cut off, the Spring River Warm Water players immediately discovered Ming Jian and Daoxue. Therefore, under Donald's command, the entire formation split into 3 groups and chased in 3 different directions. After a player died and left the battlefield, they could not communicate with the players in the battlefield. Therefore, although Scrooge McDuck's group had been ambushed by Chuanjin, Donald and the others only knew that Scrooge McDuck's group was gone, but they did not know how Scrooge McDuck had disappeared. Not far from the city ruins, Chuanjin's group had naturally set up a trap. Wang Yu's group led their pursuers into the trap one after another. Just like before, Chuanjin's group also used the Christmas sleigh as bait, luring the Spring River Warm Water players to watch and then suddenly launching an attack. They repeated the same trick again and again. After 3 consecutive waves of attacks, the team of more than 300 led by Donald was completely devoured by Chuanjin in a few minutes. At this moment, only 1/3 of the Spring River Warm Water players were left in the city ruins. Fei Tianda and the others, who were hiding in the city ruins, saw that the number of players on their side had suddenly dropped by more than 300. A line of cold sweat flowed down their cheeks. Chapter 1801. That was more than 300 people. If Donald's group was killed on the mountainside like Scrooge McDuck's group, Fei Tianda could completely understand that the Quan Jin sect had gotten their hands on a weapon of mass destruction near the hillside, or perhaps it was a trap. However, Donald's group was killed on the way to the city ruins. This proved that Chuanjin's frightening weapon could be moved, and it was the kind that was relatively convenient. If that was the case, since Chuanjin could easily kill Donald and Scrooge McDuck, then it wouldn't be a problem for them to kill Fei Tianda's group. In the beginning, Fei Tianda still held some hope that Chuanjin would succeed. He thought that the opponent was only a small team of a dozen or so players. The reason why they dared to fight against nearly 1,000 players was because they had nothing to lose. As long as they killed people, they would be able to break even. However, Fei Tiande could see that this group of people didn't have that intention. It seemed that they wanted to devour nearly 1,000 players on his side. A dozen or so players wanted to devour 1,000 players. Just this courage alone was unimaginable. Were these fellows all crazy? What was more frightening was that this small team of 11 players had already devoured 2/3 of Spring River Worm's forces. Moreover, they didn't even lose a single player. At this moment, Fei Tiande became nervous. He didn't dare to treat Chuanjin as a small team anymore. As expected of the Pro Alliance's champion team. Putting aside the value of this championship, professional experts had the ability to crush ordinary players. Boss, what do we do now? Seeing the Quanzhen sect wipe out Scrooge McDuck's and Donald's teams, Fei Tiande, who was the leader of the Quanzhen sect, started to feel nervous. The morale of the players under him was at its lowest point. At this moment, facing a small team of a dozen or so players, he actually started to panic. If the opponent had tens of thousands of players, it wouldn't be shameful if they died. However, the opponent only had a dozen or so players, yet they had wiped out nearly 1,000 of their players. The feeling and pressure they felt was completely different. Everyone, don't panic. As the leader of a guild, Fei Tiande naturally understood the principle of putting a bear in a nest. Right now, everyone's morale was low. If he didn't calm down, his team would definitely collapse. Hence, Fei Tiande pondered for a moment before saying, "The other side only has a dozen or so people. They definitely won't be our match in a head-on battle." But old Tang and the others. Seeing that Fei Tiande was going to bring up the matter of numbers, his subordinates curled their lips in disdain. If numbers were of any use, how could the 600 people on his side be wiped out without a sound? You know nothing. Hearing that, Fei Tiande rudely interrupted his subordinate's doubts, and then confidently said, "Didn't you notice that old Tang and the others were killed very strangely?" "Strange? What's so strange about it?" everyone asked in confusion. Fei Tiande said, "They didn't die on the battlefield." Everyone went silent when they heard Fei Tiande's words. 300 of Scrooge McDuck's men had died while they were searching the perimeter of the camp, while Donald's men had died on the way from the forest. So, Fei Tiande continued his analysis, they must have used bait to set up some sort of trap to wipe out Old Tang and the others. As long as we defend this city ruin and don't take the initiative to attack, their trap will be useless. When the battlefield shrinks, they can fight us head-on, and we might not necessarily lose. It seemed that even though Fei Tiande said that he wasn't afraid, he was still rather fearful of Chuanjin. Fei Tiande only dared to say that they might not lose if 300 people fought against a dozen people head-on. That makes sense, fear came from the unknown. The reason why everyone was afraid of Chuanjin was because they didn't know what kind of method this small team of a dozen people had used to devour 600 people consecutively. Hearing Fei Tiande's analysis, the originally fearful hearts of the others instantly calmed down. The city ruins terrain was complicated, and it was a position that was easy to defend and hard to attack. With such a cover, it wouldn't be a problem for them to fight against many, not to mention that there were only a dozen of them. Duck 4. Seeing that everyone's low morale was starting to rise, Fei Tiande quickly struck the iron while it was hot and commanded, "You take a team to guard the south gate, Duck 6. You take a team to guard the north gate." After arranging the tasks for the guards, Fei Tiande continued, "Remember, you must place a hole at the gate, don't let the assassins sneak in, understand?" "Understood." After receiving Fei Tiande's command, everyone scattered in all directions. Just as Fei Tiande was commanding the defense of the position, Chuanjin had also finished cleaning up the battlefield. "I didn't think that we would be able to defeat 2/3 of the people on the other side so easily. The people from Chuanjian were also very surprised at the fact that they had wiped out the Spring River Heating Company's players twice. Of course, they knew that they could win, but they didn't think that it would be so easy. That was just the appetizer, Wuji said calmly. The last 300 people will be the toughest bones to chew. Wuji is joking again. Mingdu patted his chest and said, Later, we will drive the snow sleigh to the city ruin, and then continue to let Old Cow and the other two lure out their enemies. I will be able to wipe them all out with one spell. After 2 waves of battle, Mingdu had more than 500 points, and it seemed that he had swelled a lot. It's useless. Wuji smiled and said, Now that they know how powerful we are, they will definitely hide like turtles, and the snow sleigh definitely won't work. If I'm not wrong, these people should be hiding in the city ruin, waiting for the battlefield to shrink before facing us head-on. I'm not afraid of facing them head-on. Mingdu continued to act cool. One spell from me and they will all scram. Before Mingdu could finish his words, he was slapped down by Bao San. The others also glared at Mingdu. Seeing everyone's gazes that looked like they wanted to eat him alive, Mingdu was so scared that he shrank his neck. Damn, it was fine that they wanted to snatch points, but they also didn't know how to keep a low profile. Weren't they asking for death? The other side still has 311 people. Wuji pointed at the number of people above his head and said, And they have the position as cover. If we face them head-on, although we may not lose, it will definitely not be too easy to win. This kind of retarded fighting style is not in line with my style, and it is also different from the outcome that I deduced before. After hanging around with Wuji for so long, the people of Chuanjian all knew that although Wuji's tactical style was flexible and changeable, this kid had a habit. He would definitely set a goal for himself before a battle. For example, how many people died in order to win this battle? Moreover, Wuji had obsessive-compulsive disorder about this deduction result. There was one time when one person died less than the result of the deduction. This bastard Wuji even maliciously commanded his people to deliberately send people to die. His method was extremely despicable. What is the result of your deduction? Everyone asked carefully, for fear that they would be sent to death by Wuji. A complete victory. Wuji said indifferently. Chapter 1802. Wuji, you're getting ahead of yourself. Someone else has the geographical advantage, all right? Hearing Wuji's words, everyone curled their lips. It was not that Chuanjian had never fought against a few hundred people. However, that was when Chuanjian had the geographical advantage on the battlefield. Right now, Warm River Guild had occupied the city ruins, and Chuanjian had lost their geographical advantage. Wasn't it ridiculous to think that they could wipe out the other party without losing a single person? What do you know? Wuji laughed. How can a battle of occupation be commanded by a single person? Those who know how to defend are called holding their ground. Those who don't know how to defend are called surrendering. As they spoke, Wuji drove the sled and brought Chuanjian's members to the vicinity of the city ruins. Although the city ruins were called a city, it was only the size of a village. However, it was more than enough to accommodate 300 people. Get off, get off. When everyone saw the outline of the city gates, Wuji suddenly drifted and drove the sled into the bushes. Then, he jumped off the sled and urged the others to get off as well. What? We're not going in directly? Seeing that Wuji was listening, Wang Yu asked in surprise. We have to sneak in. Wuji pointed at the city gates and said, There must be an ambush at the city gates. If we just go in like this, we will be in a very passive position. On the battlefield, the first to attack was the one with the initiative. If they entered the city without knowing the enemy's hiding spot, they would definitely be attacked by the enemy first. This city ruins did not cover a large area. As long as Chuanjian's members exposed themselves, the other players from Warm River Guild would definitely rush over to support them. Flying equipment was not allowed in this map. When that happened, only Wang Yu and a dozen people would be in a passive position against 300 people. No one would be able to escape. Wu Ji was someone who would suffer losses. No matter how disadvantageous the situation was, he still had to take the initiative. Then I'll go and see where they're hiding. Famous sword Dao Shui volunteered and charged forward with his dagger. Come back. Wu Ji pulled Dao Shui back and said, Do you think they're stupid? There's definitely a hidden unit at the entrance. Let old Yu go. Alright. Baiming Yu nodded and used her earth escape technique to enter the ground. Not long after, Baiming Yu sent a message. There are a total of 4 entrances to the city ruin. There's a team of about 20 people lying in ambush at each entrance. The others are on standby nearby. They'll be able to reach each exit in 30 seconds. Did you see that? Receiving the message from Baiming Yu, Wu Ji spread his hands and said, These guys have already opened the bag and are waiting for us to enter. Then what should we do? Chun Xiang and the others could not help but frown at the sight of this. It had to be said that the commander of the Spring River water heater was quite skilled. He actually used the terrain to his advantage and set up a trap, planning to lure the enemy into the trap. Fortunately, their opponent was the old thief Wu Ji, who was even more cunning than them. Otherwise, as soon as they entered the city, they would have fallen into his trap. That's easy. Wu Ji said calmly, This bag is too complicated. As long as we can enter quietly, we'll be able to take the initiative. When that time comes, who knows who will be the tortoise in the trap. After saying that, Wu Ji ordered, Old Cow, go to the north gate and set fire. The rest of you, follow me to the south gate. The so-called setting fire was to attract attention. Once the target was exposed, it would definitely attract the other players to chase after them. At that time, the rest of the Chuanjin team could take the opportunity to enter. Of course, not everyone could escape unscathed after being chased and beaten up by hundreds of people. The only person who could take on this responsibility was Wang Yu. Understood. Wang Yu nodded with certainty and ran toward the north gate of the city ruin alone. The others followed behind Wu Ji and ran toward the south gate of the city ruin. At the south gate of the city ruin, Duck 4 led a team of people to lie in ambush behind the gate. Fei Tianda had specially instructed them not to expose themselves to the enemy. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to achieve victory by surprise. With so many of his comrades dead, Duck 4 knew that the enemies they were facing were not to be trifled with. Hence, he didn't dare to slack off. The group of people hid behind the gate and stared at the gate attentively. They didn't even dare to blink. They held their weapons in their hands and were ready to attack at any time. However, at that moment, a Grandmaster of Combat swaggered through the gate. The Grandmaster of Combat had a burly body and a threatening aura. It was none other than Wang Yu. Wang Yu's senses were very strong. Once he entered the gate, he instantly sensed dozens of murderous gazes in the dark. Hence, he walked toward Duck 4's group unhurriedly. Boss, they're here. Do you want to fight? Duck 4's underlings asked anxiously when they saw Wang Yu swaggering over. Let's wait and see. Duck 4 said cautiously, This brat might be the vanguard. Let's wait for them to come in before we make our move. Oh. The underling nodded as if he understood. He didn't say anything else. At that moment, Wang Yu was less than 5 meters away from where Duck 4 and the rest were hiding. Just as Duck 4 and the rest were patiently waiting for an ambush, Wang Yu stared at the direction where they were hiding and said, All of you, come out. I'll let you all die a quick death. Everyone was stunned when they heard Wang Yu's words. The underling from before was even more nervous. Damn, this bastard found us. What the F***ck? Duck 4 was speechless. He's bluffing. However, just as Duck 4 finished speaking, Wang Yu continued, I'm not bluffing. You must be their boss. As soon as the word boss left his mouth, Wang Yu's body suddenly swayed. He stretched out his right arm and a white light swept over. Duck 4 didn't know what was going on. He only felt someone pulling him. Before he could react, he was already in Wang Yu's hand. Duck 4's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when he saw Wang Yu in front of him. He frantically moved his limbs in an attempt to break free from Wang Yu's control. Duck 4 was just an assassin. How could he be a match for Wang Yu in terms of strength? Wang Yu didn't waste time talking to Duck 4. He grabbed Duck 4's ankle and swung him. Bang! Duck 4's head was slammed against the wall by Wang Yu. It instantly turned into a white light. Wow! Seeing that Duck 4 was killed, Duck 4's underlings panicked. They shouted in the guild channel, "This is bad! Chuanzhen's men are rushing in from the south gate." At the same time, Wang Yu leaped into the crowd and killed one of them with a thunder stomp. He landed on the ground and twisted his body with a flaming blade. The 20 people didn't know what was going on. They were instantly wiped out by Wang Yu. Fei Tianda wasn't an idiot. Of course, he knew that Chuanzhen was trying to lure them away. When he saw the message in the guild channel, he quickly replied, "How many people?" However, at that moment, Fei Tianda received a system notification that all 20 of his men had been wiped out. Chapter 1803. After receiving the system notification, Fei Tianda's questions came to an abrupt end. Clearly, to be able to instantly kill a 20-man party in such a short amount of time, it definitely wasn't a single person. Without the cooperation of a team, it would definitely be difficult to do so. However, Fei Tianda was also very cautious. He immediately ordered, "Guards at the entrance, don't move. Everyone else, follow me to the north gate." Following Fei Tianda's order, hundreds of players majestically rushed towards the north gate. Over there, the north and south gates of the city ruins were only a few hundred meters apart. After walking for a short while, the archers with good eyesight saw Wang Yu, who had just finished killing people and was currently strolling around the city. Kill him! Fei Tianda was also very decisive. He immediately gave the order to attack the distant Wang Yu. The players from Spring River's water heater were also battle-hardened veterans. After receiving the order, they quickly opened up their formation. The tanks were in front, the damage dealers were at the back, and magic arrows flew towards Wang Yu. At this moment, Wang Yu was facing a 200-man party. Although Wang Yu had the ability to instantly kill a 20-man party, a 200-man party wasn't as simple as 1+1. The other players weren't just pieces of wood that wouldn't fight back. On the contrary, as professional players, whether it was equipment or mechanics, they were comparable to elite players from large guilds like Blood Alliance. After the tanks opened up their formation and used shield wall, even a boss would have a hard time breaking through. Moreover, Wang Yu wasn't a boss, so he didn't have a long health bar. Just now, the 20-man party was standing in a rather concentrated position. Moreover, Wang Yu had suddenly attacked, causing everyone to be in a daze when they were killed. This was why Wang Yu was able to deal maximum damage. Moreover, a 200-man party was definitely something that Wang Yu couldn't do. When Wang Yu dealt damage, he would definitely be dealt damage by others. Going back and forth, as long as he moved, his damage output would be affected, and if he didn't move, he would be killed on the spot. Therefore, even if Wang Yu faced more than 200 people head-on, if he couldn't kill all of them in the first round, the only outcome would be death. Of course, it wasn't difficult for Wang Yu to retreat unscathed. After all, Wang Yu's goal wasn't to single-handedly annihilate his opponent. Seeing Fei Tianda and the others shooting arrows at him, Wang Yu smiled and turned around to run. At the same time, he sent a message to Wuji, "They are at the north gate." It didn't matter if Wang Yu turned and ran, but when Fei Tianda saw this, he immediately concluded that there must be an ambush behind Wang Yu. Chuanzhen's men must be lying in ambush at the north gate. Thus, he hurriedly called for them to stop, "Don't chase. Everyone, spread out and pay attention to the surroundings." While Fei Tiande and the others were distracted by Wang Yu, Wu Ji brought Xuanzhen's group to the south gate. I will hold them. Everyone, follow me. When they arrived at the south gate, just as Yin Lao Er was about to raise his shield and rush in, Wu Ji quickly grabbed Yin Lao Er and said, "Don't move." After saying that, Wu Ji pointed to the other side of the gate and signaled to place one's pride with his eyes. Jump over there. Okay, to place one's pride understood Wu Ji's meaning and jumped from one side of the gate to the other. As Fei Tiande had instructed them to not let down their guard, Duck 6, who was at the south gate, didn't go to the north gate to support. Instead, he led his team to watch the gate from behind. However, when everyone was focused on watching, a figure suddenly flashed past the gate. Someone is here. Duck 6 was shocked when he saw someone jump past the gate. He quickly stood up and pointed to the gate and said, "Everyone, chase after him." If it was at the beginning, Duck 6 would definitely not dare to chase after him. However, Fei Tiande had basically confirmed that Xuanzhen's people were at the north gate. Now that this person was definitely sent by Xuanzhen to ambush them, Duck 6 naturally wouldn't let go of any opportunity to make a contribution. Duck 6's men were also very smart. Following Duck 6's order, everyone stood up and rushed out of the gate. The people of Xuanzhen were already waiting outside the gate. As soon as Duck 6's men rushed out of the gate, Spring Soaring pointed his staff. Boom! A dark kekai rose. Duck 6's men were instantly frozen on the spot. Collapsing mountain and splitting earth. Meteor arrow. Flickering shadow chain kick. This B***starred Mingdu had snatched more than half of the kills. The members of the Quan Zhen sect had long been dissatisfied. At this moment, when they saw that Duck 6 and his group were locked in place, they didn't wait for Mingdu's magic to land. Instead, they rushed forward and used a wave of big moves to kill Duck 6 and his group. F***ck. Duck 6, who was standing at the back of the group, was instantly dumbfounded. Didn't they say that all the people of Xuanzhen were at the north gate? Why did so many people appear at the south gate? This didn't make sense. F***ck. Don't you have any shame? While Duck 6 was still in shock, Mingdu suddenly pointed at the people who had snatched the kills and scolded them. Trash. Faced with Mingdu's arrogance, the people of Xuanzhen turned around and stared at Mingdu fiercely. Seeing everyone's murderous gazes, Mingdu quickly turned around and looked behind the gate. He pointed his staff at Duck 6 and said, "There's another one over there." Duck 6 couldn't help but shiver when he heard this. He quickly rolled backward, turned around, and ran away. Seeing that Duck 6 had run away, the people of Xuanzhen didn't intend to chase after him. Only Wu Ji urged, "Stop acting. Hurry up and enter the city." Saying this, the people of Xuanzhen quickly slipped into the ruins of the city. At this time, Fei Tiande also received a message from Duck 6. "Boss, the people of Xuanzhen are at the south gate." Impossible! Fei Tiande was very confident in his judgment of the battlefield. He had just concluded that Xuanzhen was at the north gate, and now, someone had proven his judgment wrong. Fei Tiande was very unhappy. Just as he was about to reply to the message to refute, the system notified him that one of his teammates had been killed. Yee! Fei Tiande was dumbfounded. At the same time, Duck 6 sent another message. "It's true. I saw them all. Luckily, I ran fast enough. Otherwise, I would have died too." F***ck. What a strange thing. Fei Tiande heard this. No matter how unwilling he was to believe it, he had to believe it. After all, Fei Tiande had only seen Wang Yu at the north gate. Everything else was just speculation. However, Duck 6 had actually seen the people of Xuanzhen. Thinking of this, Fei Tiande cursed angrily. He hurriedly waved at the others and said, "Xuanzhen has entered the city. Everyone, hurry up and return to defend." With this order, the players of Spring River Heating Company followed behind Fei Tiande and ran into the city. At this time, the people of Xuanzhen had already entered the city. Looking at the empty position, Wuji smiled and said to the people of Chuanzhen, "Do you see that? Such a good terrain is the best for guerrilla warfare. Now that the news of us entering the city has spread, the enemies will return to defend soon. Everyone, spread out and capture them yourselves." Chapter 1804. The Quanzhen sect had always been a wretched guild ever since it was founded. Before they played a rebirth, this guild was like a rat on the street. Everyone wanted to beat them up. Now, being chased all over the streets was a common occurrence. No one could beat them in guerrilla warfare, especially when it came to fighting in the city. They were definitely at the level of a grandmaster. Let alone Warm Springs group of 300 players, even if they were being chased by tens of thousands of players, these players would still be like walking dogs, leaving their opponents helpless. When Chuanzhen dispersed, Fei Tianda also brought his subordinates into the city. At this time, Chuanzhen's players were nowhere to be seen. Under normal circumstances, 300 players against a dozen players would definitely spread out and search. The city ruins weren't big, so they would be able to find them quickly if they searched every room. However, Fei Tianda had already experienced Chuanzhen's strength. He knew that there was at least one person in this group who could instantly kill a small team. Naturally, he didn't dare to order everyone to spread out and search. Instead, he decisively ordered, "Everyone, don't move. Stand in a circular formation." Following Fei Tianda's order, the players from Spring River Heater hurriedly stood back to back in a circle. The tankers raised their shields and surrounded the circle, protecting the formation like an iron bucket. "Haha! Hello everyone!" Just as the players from Spring River Heater stood in formation, a rough voice suddenly came from above. Everyone looked up and saw a burly player dressed as a grandmaster of combat descending from the sky. His feet were covered in lightning, and he landed right in the center of the players from Spring River Heater. There was no need for an introduction. This was undoubtedly Wang Yu. Boom! With a loud bang, lightning scattered in all directions with Wang Yu at the center. The players in the center of the circle were all clerics and archers, so they naturally couldn't withstand Wang Yu's thunder stomp. Wang Yu's stomp lit up and instantly cleared all the players under his feet. To prevent an assassin's sneak attack, the players from Spring River Heater stood very closely together. Of course, Wang Yu's thunder stomp was very solid. With just one stomp, Wang Yu killed 7 or 8 people. Hua! The players from Spring River Heating Company were stunned by Wang Yu's sudden kick. Everyone knew that when a player was in a bad mood during a game, they would fight randomly. It was the same for the Spring River Warm players. Everyone panicked and subconsciously surged forward, trying to kill Wang Yu on the spot. However, the moment Wang Yu landed on the ground, his hands suddenly crossed. Hoo! A raging flame burst out and wrapped around Wang Yu's arms. After landing on the ground, Wang Yu used his waist as an axis and swung his arms horizontally behind him. Suddenly, a long flame blade made a 360-degree slash. Whoosh! Streaks of white light intertwined with the crimson flames in Wang Yu's hands. With Wang Yu at the center, the area within 5 meters was directly cleared. More than 20 archers, mages, and priests were instantly killed by Wang Yu. Seeing this scene, Fei Tianda and the others were completely dumbfounded. After fighting for so long, this was the first time Fei Tianda and the others saw the standard of a Chuanzhen player in a head-on battle. What kind of monster is this? In just one round, he killed more than 30 people. What kind of monster is this? Could it be that these people are all monsters of this standard? At this moment, no one was surprised that Chuanzhen could kill more than 300 people in one go. After using a set of skills, Wang Yu did not stop. Before Fei Tianda and the others could react, Wang Yu leaped into the air and used Flash to appear outside the encirclement of the Spring River Warm players. Then, he turned around and ran. His skills are on cooldown. Don't let him escape. Seeing that Wang Yu was about to escape, Fei Tianda immediately reacted and pointed in the direction that Wang Yu disappeared to and gave the order to chase. Although the Spring River Warm players were slightly afraid of Wang Yu, since the boss had already given the order, who would dare to disobey? Therefore, everyone chased in the direction that Wang Yu disappeared to without hesitation. In the end, Wang Yu led this group of people and turned here and there before entering a small alley. Once they entered the alley, the Spring River Warm players did not know why they felt uneasy. Creak! At this moment, the door of a house at the back of the team opened. Then, a cold-looking assassin appeared out of thin air. Wielding a dagger with both hands, the assassin rushed into the team of Spring River Heatings players, leaving a trail of afterimages. Pu. A backstab, a cut throat, and a shadow stab. The assassin raised his dagger and 3 white lights lit up at almost the same time. An archer and 2 mages in the Spring River Warm players' formation were killed on the spot. Behind. Kill him. Wang Yu's appearance just now had already caused the morale of the Spring River Warm players to plummet. Now that they were suddenly attacked from behind, their morale had already collapsed. Roaring, they turned around to attack the assassin who had ambushed them. In the end, the assassin calmly plunged headfirst into the ground, as if he was diving into the water. Right after the assassin disappeared, another assassin with a wretched expression appeared on the other side. After stabbing the shield warrior closest to him, he activated swift movement and ran forward. An assassin actually dared to provoke the shield warrior in the front row. Naturally, the shield warrior in the front row could not tolerate this. Without a word, he lowered his head and charged forward. Just as he was about to catch up to his target, the wretched assassin turned around and entered the house beside him. Seeing this, the shield warriors walked up to the door without hesitation and reached out to push it open. Creak! As soon as the door was pushed open, Yin Lao Air raised his shield and charged out of the room with charge activated. Yin Lao Air possessed incomparable strength. Coupled with the charge skill, the enemy who opened the door was caught off guard. Yin Lao Air directly slammed into the opposite wall of the room. Meanwhile, Yin Lao Air crashed into the encirclement of the Spring River Warm players. Courting death. Kill him! After being hung up and beaten for so long, the Spring River Warm players were filled with rage. Seeing that Xuanzhen's members were alone, it was only natural that they became bold. A group of players raised their shields and smashed them at Yin Lao Air. Seeing this, the corner of Yin Lao Air's mouth rose, revealing a trace of a smile. He raised his left hand's middle finger and shouted, "Bastard!" Following Yin Lao Air's shout, the Spring River Warm players suddenly lost control of their bodies and were pulled in front of Yin Lao Air. Collapsing mountain, splitting earth slash. At the same time, a thunderous roar resounded. Bao San descended from the sky with the sword of the heavenly god in his hands. Boom! The instant the Spring River Warm players were taunted by Yin Lao Air, Bao San's sword of the heavenly god was heavily stabbed into the ground. Numerous cracks flashed with a fiery red light as they spread out on the ground. Everyone within the range of the collapsing mountain slash was sent flying by Bao San. Breaking dragon slash! After sending his target flying, Bao San pulled out his long sword and swung it upwards. The Spring River Warm players who had already been sent flying were once again sent flying. Fierce Dragon Slash. Please remember this book's domain name. Mobile version. Chapter 1805. Warriors were an extremely powerful class in the game. Not only was their defense second only to knights, but their damage was also second only to mages and assassins. As a top-tier warrior, Bao San's equipment and stats were among the best. He was not much weaker than a proper professional player. In Rebirth, sending a player flying was considered a hard crowd control. The players who were sent flying would lose all their skills. Naturally, these shield warriors could not even raise their shields. Without the protection of a shield, Bao San's 3 powerful skills immediately took away more than half of the shield warrior's HP, even though the shield warrior was tanky. Phantom Constellation. Milky Way Descent. After Bao San finished his set of skills, the two girls' voices came from above. Yang Na and Exquisite Dream raised their crossbows and shot black and white rays of light at Spring River Infusion and the others. The black shadow arrows were like an all-encompassing illusion. The silver crossbow arrows fell like meteors. After being hit by the black shadow arrows, Spring River Infusion's feet sank. He could not move and could only allow the silver arrows to land on his body. Shield warriors were extremely disgusting in the late game. Their defense was so high that it was depressing. These guys had already lost more than half of their HP to Bao San. Now, after taking a set of skills from Yang Na and Exquisite Dream, their HP had barely reached red. Fortunately, to place one's pride, Mingjian Daoshue and the others followed up with another attack. Only then were they able to kill off the frontline players. Retreat. Retreat. As the most important part of a team, the tank class was the guarantee of a team's survival. Without the tank class, the team had lost the ability to survive. Now that the frontline players were almost completely wiped out, Fei Tianda panicked. With Yin Lao Air and the others blocking the way, Fei Tianda naturally did not dare to advance. He could only order his subordinates to retreat. Boom. However, just as everyone retreated to the entrance of the alley, a black circle rose from the ground, blocking Fei Tianda's group. Spring River Infusion was not a newbie. He naturally knew the effects of Dark Barrier. Thus, he retreated once more. However, everyone's feet sank as if they were being pulled by something. They were unable to move. Everyone hurriedly looked down and saw that a patch of thorns had appeared under their feet. Their feet were tightly bound by the thorns. Oldly, time to clean up. The voice of a wretched uncle came from outside the alley. Accompanied by the wretched uncle's shout, everyone felt a heat under their feet, and a sea of fire drilled out of the ground. There was also lightning in the sea of fire. The thorns on the ground ignited when they came in contact with the fire. The two borrowed strength from each other, and the raging flames instantly reached the roof, instantly engulfing more than half of the players in the alley. Over half of Spring River's 200-plus members were annihilated in a single exchange. Most of them were magic classes with short legs. At the end of the day, Fei Tianda and the others were still experts. In that situation, while the classes with short legs could not escape, archers, assassins, and warriors did not lack escape skills. When Mingdu's flames rose, Fei Tianda and the others broke free from Chun Xiang's control. The warrior took the lead, lowering his head and activating charge. He forcefully knocked Yin Lao Air's group out of the alleyway, while the agility-type players followed behind and escaped. Hee. At this moment, Wuji poked his head out from the roof and looked in the direction that Fei Tianda and the others had fled. He smiled and said, "You guys have lost. Remember to pay up." F***CK. Everyone beat their chests and stomped their feet. They pointed at Mingdu and scolded, "Old Li, you trash. Daddy finally managed to block them, why didn't you wipe them out?" Just now, Yin Lao Air and the others had made a bet with Wuji that they could finish the battle in one go. Who knew that they would still let Fei Tianda and the others escape after all their calculations? Losing to trash like Wuji, they were quite unwilling. Nonsense. Mingdu also said anxiously, "Grandpas, I just threw out a spell and instantly killed over 100 people. There are so many of them, how could I kill them all in one go? If you want to blame someone, blame Spring Dog. His control was so weak that people could still break free." "Ergu, what are you laughing at?" Chun Xiang was also unhappy when he heard this. "Why didn't you stop them just now?" "Stop your grandpa." Yin Lao Air, who was watching Mingdu and Chun Xiang foolishly bickering with each other, saw that the spearhead was pointed at him. He also said with justice, F***CK, I alone fought against an entire team? Are you kidding me? It's all Foreskin's fault. It's none of my business. Foreskin rolled his eyes and said murderously, I only know how to kill, I won't block the way. Isn't that so? A good dog doesn't block the way. Foreskin is obviously much more obedient than you bunch of stupid dogs. To place one's pride, Daoshua and the others were also watching the show. Alright. At such a crucial moment, it was still Wuji, as the guild leader, who was more reliable. Seeing that his companions were about to start killing each other before they even finished off the enemy, Wuji quickly interrupted. Those guys have already run far away, and you guys are still here to shirk responsibility. Where did they run off to? Chun Xiang came over and asked. Just now, Chun Xiang was at the other end of the alley and did not see the direction that Fei Tianda and the others escaped to. They ran left after exiting the alley. Yang Na, who was on the roof, replied. Left. Chun Xiang touched his chin and asked, The direction of the city gate? That's right. Wuji nodded and said indifferently, F***CK. Hearing Wuji's answer, Chun Xiang and the others immediately became anxious. Everyone, hurry up and chase after them. Don't let them escape. The map outside the city ruin was very vast. Everyone had spent a lot of effort to trap Fei Tianda and the others in the city. Once they escaped the city, it would not be easy to find an opportunity to trap them again. No rush, no rush. Wuji waved his hand and said, Let them run. Aren't you afraid that they will run? Chun Xiang was surprised when he saw how calm Wuji was. Wuji laughed and said, Didn't you notice that we are missing one person? This. Chun Xiang was stunned for a moment and quickly looked around. He then said in surprise, Where's Old Cow? That's right. Wuji smiled and said, Old Cow has been waiting for them at the entrance. There are so many people. Can Old Cow stop them? Chun Xiang asked absent-mindedly. Chun Xiang naturally did not doubt Wang Yu's strength. However, killing and escaping were two completely different concepts. Fei Tianda still had over 100 people under him. Even if Wang Yu could fight against 100 people alone, could he stop them from escaping? There should only be over 100 people on the other side now, right? Wuji asked with a smile. Yes. Chun Xiang nodded. Their tanks and mages are gone, right? Gone. Chun Xiang nodded again. During the battle in the alley just now, the main targets were the tanks and mages. Now, not only did Fei Tianda lose his tanks, but his damage output mages, control-type warlocks, and healing-type priests had also been eliminated by Quan Zhen. Chapter 1806. As a pugilist, Wang Yu basically had no natural enemies. However, the warlock class had always been troublesome to deal with. The warlock class's instantaneous burst damage wasn't strong, but its continuous damage from poison was known as the most disgusting class in history. It was especially true for its various control skills. Even Wang Yu didn't dare to underestimate it. After all, no matter how strong Wang Yu was, he had to bow to the system. As for the mage, priest, and tank classes, one dealt yui damage, one healed, and one had thick skin. Wang Yu wasn't afraid in a one-on-one fight. However, a team battle wasn't as simple as having one more person. When these three classes fought as a team, the level of disgust would stack. It wouldn't be inferior to the warlock class. During the siege in the alley, Wuji had specifically ordered his troops to target these classes. Now that the warlock, priest, mage, and tank in Fei Tianda's team had all been killed, although the remaining players' damage output wasn't low, whether it was control or harassment, they wouldn't pose much of a problem to a melee master like Wang Yu. As the saying went, only magic could defeat magic, and only Wang Yu could eliminate physical attack. Meanwhile, after Fei Tianda's group was ambushed by Chuanzhen's group, they had thoroughly experienced the Chuanzhen's methods. There were many alleys in the city ruin, and people could hide in every corner of the houses. If they continued to stay here, they wouldn't have a good ending. Naturally, Fei Tianda didn't dare to allow his subordinates to remain here. Hence, Fei Tianda and his subordinates ran towards the city gate. Just as the group was about to leave the city, they discovered that Wang Yu had been waiting for them at the city gates. Wang Yu held a long staff in front of him, blocking the entrance. Fei Tiande and his subordinates felt a chill in their hearts when they saw the stalwart figure blocking the entrance. Fei Tiande and his subordinates were no strangers to Wang Yu. They had seen Wang Yu twice just now. At the same time, Wang Yu had left a deep impression on Spring River's players. This kid had appeared twice and attacked twice in total. However, in just those 2 attacks, he had claimed over 50 lives from Spring River's Warm River Guard. Spring River's Warm River Guards had never heard of such a frightening existence. When he saw Wang Yu blocking the road, Fei Tiande's emotions were extremely complicated. In front of them was Wang Yu blocking their path, and behind them was the ambush of the other members of the Quanzhen sect. Right now, Fei Tiande's group was in a dilemma. There was no need to doubt Wang Yu's strength, but the guys behind him were equally terrifying. Should he force his way through Wang Yu's obstruction, or should he turn around and face the ambush of Tenchuanzhen men? This choice was simply a suicide question. However, with the principle that it was better to have one less opponent than one more opponent, Fei Tiande decided to cut off all means of retreat and pointed at Wang Yu. There's no way out. Everyone, let's go together and kill this brat. Fei Tiande's subordinates were no fools. Naturally, they understood Fei Tiande's meaning. Although Wang Yu was terrifying, he was still only one person. Although there might be some losses if there were more than 100 of them against one person, the chances of winning were still very high. If they turned back, the Quanzhen sect's ambush behind them would definitely be able to kill the remaining people in one wave. As long as they weren't fools, they would know whether to turn around and die or face Wang Yu alone. Hence, upon receiving Fei Tiande's command, Spring River Guards quickly spread out into formation. The warriors lined up in a row, protecting the archers behind them, while the assassins disappeared into thin air. Attack! Following Fei Tiande's command, the warriors at the front lowered their heads and charged at Wang Yu. The archers also knocked their arrows and fired at Wang Yu. The players who were able to survive the Quanzhen sect's ambush were, of course, experts among experts. Their coordination was also extremely brilliant. Unlike the other players, these players didn't aim at a single point. Instead, they scattered their attacks towards Wang Yu. Instantly, dozens of arrows rained down on Wang Yu. Hee. Upon seeing this, Wang Yu smiled slightly and retreated half a step to the city gate. Dang 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 dang, the gate of the city ruins was only 3 to 4 meters wide. As Wang Yu took a step back, 2/3 of the arrows hit the wall behind the gate. At the same time, Wang Yu swung the long staff in his hand. Swoosh, dozens of arrows were swept away by Wang Yu's staff. At this time, the dozens of warriors at the front of Spring River Guards also rushed in front of Wang Yu. Without waiting for Wang Yu to retreat, the air behind Wang Yu distorted. 7 or 8 assassins appeared behind Wang Yu and stabbed at Wang Yu's back with their daggers. There was a row of warriors in front of him, and a group of assassins behind him with backstab. Wang Yu was attacked from both sides, and it looked like he was going to be finished off in one wave. Wang Yu didn't panic. He placed the long staff in his hand on the ground and pushed down with his arms. His entire body flew up. Now that Wang Yu's target had disappeared, it was too late for the warrior and the assassin who had been hit by backstab to cancel their skills. Bang 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 bang! The players from Spring River Guards directly collided into each other. Although they didn't take any damage, the impact of the collision was real. More than 20 people fell into a pile. Lightning flashed under Wang Yu's feet as he put away his long staff and descended from the sky. Boom! With a loud sound, Wang Yu landed on the ground and twisted his body to use the flaming blade. The lightning spread out along with the flames. The 20 people below the city gate were instantly killed by Wang Yu and turned into white light. Humph. Seeing that his companions were killed, Fei Tiande wasn't surprised at all. Instead, the corner of his mouth curled up and revealed a treacherous smile. Following a cold laugh, Fei Tiande loudly said, This brat has already used up all his tricks. Everyone, take this opportunity to kill him. It had to be said that as a guild leader, Fei Tianda was very scheming. Previously, Fei Tianda and his men had fought with Wang Yu twice. Fei Tianda thought that he had figured out Wang Yu's background and knew Wang Yu like the back of his hand. In Fei Tianda's eyes, this terrifying grandmaster of combat only had 3 tricks: Thunder Stomp, Flaming Blade, and a high speed of turning and running. Therefore, Fei Tianda first let his men feint to trick Wang Yu into using his skills. Now that Wang Yu had used both Thunder Stomp and Flaming Blade, he didn't have any other attacking methods. As long as everyone attacked together, a mere grandmaster of combat would be a piece of cake. However, it was obvious that Fei Tianda didn't have a thorough understanding of Chuanjin. From the beginning, Fei Tianda had underestimated his opponent. The reason that Chuanjin could let Wang Yu stand guard at the city gate was definitely not because Wang Yu was the only one there. Instead, it was because compared to everyone else in Chuanjin combined, this guy guarding the city gate was much more terrifying. Chapter 1807. Of course, Fei Tianda didn't have the chance to understand this. When Wang Yu saw Fei Tianda leading the rest of the people to charge forward, he leaped backward and somersaulted out of the city gate. Although the city gate was only 3 to 4 meters wide, it was 7 to 8 meters deep. By the time Wang Yu leaped back, Fei Tianda, Spring River Heater, and the rest of the players had already reached the city gate. Wang Yu landed on the ground and circulated his dantian. His body flashed with a golden light as he activated Dragon Subduing Palm. At the same time, he struck out with both palms. Roar! Following a dragon's roar, waves of energy gushed out from Wang Yu's palms and turned into golden dragons that crashed into the players of Spring River Heater. Profound Art of Subduing Dragon. 100 miles stun. A row of golden Chinese characters lit up above Wang Yu's head. Although this 100-mile stun was powerful, its activation speed wasn't fast. It was very limited against agility classes like archers and assassins. Unless certain conditions were met, it would be extremely difficult to wipe out everyone in one move. However, Wang Yu had already predicted this terrain. Seeing the enemies pouncing at him, Wang Yu retreated while Fei Tianda and the others rushed forward. Coincidentally, everyone had reached the city gate. The city gate was long and narrow. With 100 people inside, it was naturally very crowded. Facing Wang Yu's skill, there was no way to avoid it. Roar! The golden dragon roared as it flew into the city gate. Everyone below the city gate was swallowed by the dragon. Victory! After Fei Tianda and the others were wiped out by Wang Yu, 2 huge Chinese characters appeared in the sky above the battlefield. Chuanjin's players were teleported out of the battlefield. System notice: your guild has annihilated the enemy guild, Spring River Heater Duck Prophet. Obtained 1948 points. System notice: your guild has not lost a single person in the guild battlefield. You have achieved perfect achievement. The points obtained have been doubled. Following a series of system notifications, the battle points were calculated. With the exception of Wang Yu, Chuanjin's players all had a golden light on their bodies. Aside from the guild point rewards, the guild battlefield also rewarded a large amount of experience. The amount of experience was determined by the number of people on both sides. 11 people from Chuanjin had killed 974 people from Spring River. This experience was naturally an astronomical number when divided equally among the people from Chuanjin. The members of the Quanjin Guild had all leveled up after receiving the experience. Even Wang Yu, who was already at level 70, had his experience bar jump. In the end, the game still depended on one's equipment and control. To Quanjin's members, experience and levels were like floating clouds. However, the several thousand points they had earned made them incredibly happy. Just now, when he was in the Divine Demon Canyon, he had only earned a dozen or so points after working hard for half an hour. If he encountered an actor, he might not even be able to earn that much. Now, this trip to the guild battlefield had also only lasted 30 minutes. Yet, they had obtained such a bountiful harvest. This was especially true for Mingdu, who had obtained more than half of the points by himself. At this moment, he was so happy that his teeth were about to pop out. Very beautiful, very beautiful. Mingdu started to calculate how many elemental stones he could exchange for. At this moment, Wuji said, "In the next battlefield, we have to give all the kills to Old Li or Old Cow." Really? Hearing Wuji's words, Mingdu felt excited. This was the first time Mingdu had enjoyed such treatment. Of course, Wuji explained, we're here to farm for materials. If the points are too scattered, it'll be a waste of time. It'll be faster to gather 1 or 2 people to farm. Pfft. Hearing Wuji's words, Mingdu spat out a mouthful of blood. Trembling, he said, "So, I'm that god of fortune." "Nonsense," everyone said in disdain. "Without us, how many points do you think you can farm?" But my ass." Mingdu was about to retort when Wuji interrupted him. "As long as you're obedient, the MVP will still be yours. If you dare to disobey, I won't let you farm a single point." Mingdu wanted to cry innocence again. The Chuanjian people frowned. All right. Under everyone's tyranny, Mingdu could only compromise. As a veteran Chuanjian dog, Mingdu naturally understood his group of old fellows better than anyone else. They were a group of people who would do what they said, especially Wuji. If he dared to disobey him, it was very likely that he would be sent to his death at the start. New the first time, familiar the second time. With the first battle, they were much more familiar with the following guild battlefield. Chuanjian's group carried forward the essence of guerrilla warfare. They relied on the terrain and used their mounts as bait. When the enemy advanced, they retreated. When the enemy was stationed, they harassed. When the enemy was tired, they attacked. When the enemy retreated, they chased. They were like a mudslide on the battlefield. Wherever they went, there were whales. However, no one from a real big guild would waste their leveling time on battlefield. After all, although the battlefield EXP was high, it varied from person to person. Chuanjian had fewer people, so the EXP was more evenly distributed. Compared to big guilds, the EXP was still very scarce. Therefore, other than Spring River Warm Water, the other guilds that were matched with Chuanjian were small guilds with 80 to 90 people. Everyone farmed until nighttime before they finally obtained the materials that Yin Lao Air needed. When Wang Yu and the others returned to Yu Huiqing, Evildoers Run Wild also brought the materials to Chuanjian's base. Everyone excitedly followed Wang Yu into the forge. This was a genuine, original celestial equipment. Although its attributes weren't much better than the celestial equipment forged from a recipe, it was still very significant. They could witness the celestial equipment's glory. Normal players might not even have the chance to see it even once they closed the game's server. The people from Chuanjian were lively people. Of course, they wouldn't miss it. Even Mu Zixian, Li Shui, and the others put down their business and returned to the guild base when they heard that Wang Yu wanted to recast the celestial equipment. Money could be earned at any time. This thing was rarer than a meteor. Compared to forging, recasting equipment didn't have much technical content. This was because 90% of the process of forging equipment was making equipment parts, and the remaining 10% was assembling the equipment. On the other hand, recasting equipment was done according to the system's requirements. All players needed to do was throw the materials in according to the system's requirements. They had the original celestial equipment template, so there was no need for players to reforge it. The difficulty of recasting was in the collection of materials and finding a designated blacksmith. Yin Lao Air could be considered extremely lucky. First, he had Wang Yu, a friend who was proficient in the Titan race's forging. Then, he had the help of his old friends from Chuanjian. In just one day, everyone had helped Yin Lao Air overcome all sorts of difficulties. Arriving at the control panel, Wang Yu opened the recasting interface. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew, and the furnace on the control panel burst into flames. Wang Yu followed the system's instructions and threw the materials in his bag into the furnace. As the materials in Wang Yu's bag decreased, the furnace's completion rate increased. Finally, when Wang Yu threw the last material into the furnace, the completion rate reached 100%. Chapter 1808. Seeing that the progress bar was full, Wang Yu took out the Sky Demon armor mold and placed it on the control panel. A silhouette of the Sky Demon armor appeared on the control panel, and below the silhouette was a recast option. Wang Yu took a deep breath and clicked recast. After another long loading bar, the materials in the furnace slowly poured into the mold. The palm-sized Sky Demon armor gradually grew larger, and its color also gained a luster. As the materials in the furnace decreased, the color of the Sky Demon armor became more and more beautiful. With a flash of black light, the palm-sized Sky Demon armor mold turned into a set of armor in Wang Yu's hand. System notice: recast successful. You have obtained the Divine Armament Sky Demon armor. System notice: player Iron Ox has recast the Divine Armament. Reputation plus 1000. Obtained Precious Gem, Black Crystal *1. Following the system notification, a black crystal appeared in Wang Yu's bag. Seeing the black crystal in his bag, Wang Yu grew excited. As the saying goes, one can wear out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find it by chance. The black crystal was something that could only be found by chance. Wang Yu no longer held any hope for it. He never imagined that after recasting the Sky Demon armor, he would be rewarded with a black crystal. This was the joy of recasting equipment. Not only could the players who received the quest obtain divine equipment, but the blacksmiths who helped in the recasting would also receive random rewards. Even the Quan Zhen sect members who were watching from the sidelines were notified by the system that they had gained some insights into forging after witnessing the rebirth of divine equipment. Naturally, these forging insights were useless to Chuanjin, who did not play the blacksmith profession. However, if a blacksmith had these insights, their chances of forging a top-tier item within a certain period of time would greatly increase. After his excitement, Wang Yu handed the Sky Demon armor to Yin Lao Er. The people of Quan Zhen immediately surrounded them and stared at Yin Lao, their eyes filled with curiosity. This was a divine armament. Chuanjin probably wouldn't believe it if they said they weren't curious about its attribute. Chuanjin had contributed greatly to the reforging of the Sky Demon armor. Naturally, Yin Lao Er would not be so stingy as to not even let the others see its attributes. Hence, he casually opened the attribute panel. Sky Demon armor, legendary, physical defense, 700-700 magic resistance, 700-700 plus 70 strength plus 70 physique plus 70 dexterity. Sky Demon's Greed, passive skill. Absorbs 10% of the damage taken and converts it into damage. Sky Demon's Rage, passive skill. Player will gain rage points for every critical hit. Each point of rage will increase player's critical hit rate by 1%. Maximum stacking limit is 200%. Sky Demon's Bloodlust, passive skill. For every 1% of HP lost, player's attack and defense will increase by 5%. Sky Demon's Fear, passive skill. When the player's HP is reduced to 30%, the player will enter the Sky Demon's possession state. Under the Sky Demon's possession state, the player's body will grow by 300%, and their attack power and defense will increase by 300%. At the same time, the player will fear nearby targets for a short time and reflect 30% of the damage taken. Sky Demon's Pride, active skill. Taunts all enemy targets within a 200-meter radius. For 10 seconds, the target taunted will have their attack power reduced by 80% and their movement speed reduced by 60%. Sky Demon's Massacre, active skill. consumes all HP to obtain the undying state and instantly gains 100 rage points. The more HP consumed, the longer the undying state will last. Item description: this is an armor that has been passed down since ancient times. It is said that it was made from the skeletons of enemies killed by the Sky Demon Lord while he was training in another world. After thousands of years of forging, this Sky Demon armor was finally forged. The Sky Demon armor has gone through 6 generations of Sky Demon Lords and absorbed the abilities they were most proud of. It is a magic weapon that causes people to tremble in fear. Level requirement: 70. Class requirement: Warrior Sky Demon's Disintegration, legendary skill. Consumes 50% of HP to deal a fatal blow to the target. Increases movement speed by 500% for 10 seconds. When killed in the Sky Demon's disintegration state, the user can resurrect on the spot and recover 50% of HP. Cooldown time: 180 seconds. During the cooldown time, all stats will be reduced by 20%. Damn. When everyone saw the attributes of Yin Lao Air's Sky Demon armor, a wave of envy washed over them. Of course, most of them felt that they had not sacrificed themselves for nothing. Although they had spent so many materials and put in so much effort, this Sky Demon armor was absolutely worth it. Players' equipment was mainly divided into 2 attributes: attack and defense. The reason why armor was called a large piece was because, like weapons, armor was the most important part of a player's equipment's defense. In terms of defense, this Sky Demon armor was practically flawless. Not only did it have a special effect that increased defense, but it also had the effect of reflecting attack. The Sky Demon's massacre skill gave the player an undying body and even a resurrection skill. In addition, with the active skill of Sky Demon's Pride, even if Yin Lao Air was in a state of low HP, he could still stand firmly at the front of the team. Being able to pull and stand firmly were essential qualities for a good tank. With these attributes, the Sky Demon armor was the perfect piece of equipment for tanks. In addition, the Sky Demon armor also increased critical hit, attack power, and movement speed by 5 times, making up for the weakness of a tank class in terms of damage output. Whether it was a battle of weapons or a battle of defense, wearing this armor would instantly transform a player into a killing machine that combined both offense and defense. Although Chuanjin's team possessed a godly weapon, before the Sky Demon armor, they were no different from toys. Aside from the staff in Mingdu's hands and the bow on Wang Yu's back, no other piece of equipment could compare to the Sky Demon armor. One had to admit that comparisons were odious. This was especially true for a shield warrior like Yin Lao Air. A good piece of armor was even more valuable than a weapon. Come on, let's try out the equipment. Bao San was also a warrior, so he was naturally excited when he saw this exquisite piece of equipment. He dragged Yin Lao Air with him to try it out. Try my ass. I can't even wear it yet. Yin Lao Air grinned and asked the crowd, "Who's going to give me some divine wood so I can lower my level?" Scram. Everyone gave Yin Lao Air the middle finger in unison. Damn it, he's still not satisfied after obtaining such an amazing godly weapon. He even wants divine wood. He really doesn't care about the feelings of others at all. Looking at the noisy crowd around him, Wang Yu smiled slightly. He took off his shoes and threw them on the control panel. Then, he took out the black crystal from his backpack. As the saying goes, helping others is also helping oneself. Wang Yu had been busy for the whole day for Yin Lao Air. For Wang Yu, this black crystal was an unexpected harvest. P.S. The cold medicine I bought seems to have sleeping ingredient. I'm dozing off while writing. This is the last chapter for today. I'm going to sleep. Chapter 1809. Wang Yu placed the war boots of dusk and the black crystal on the control panel. A draw option appeared on the panel. System notification. Will you draw stats? Yes. Wang Yu casually clicked the confirm button. The stats drawn from the black crystal were random. After the draw, the equipment would disappear. It would be fine if he got Dusk Leap on his first try, but if he didn't, not only would the black crystal be wasted, even the equipment would be wasted. From this point of view, it could be seen that high-grade equipment also had its shortcomings. Because of this, some single-stat bronze equipment were extremely expensive on the market. These types of equipment were called single-stat equipment. Fortunately, Wang Yu's War Boots of Dusk was something he had equipped when he first started playing. Its level and grade were not high. It was just a piece of silver-grade equipment with only 2 stats. Although Wang Yu's face was not white, it was not especially black either. A 50% chance was not low for him. As Wang Yu clicked confirm, the War Boots of Dusk on the control panel turned into a black light and was absorbed by the black crystal. System notification. Stat draw complete. You have obtained the tool Black Crystal. Black Crystal. Rare material can be used to create equipment. Stats. Dusk Leap active skill. Instantly teleports to a specific location within 5 meters. Cooldown 60 seconds. Who? Looking at the black crystal in his hand, Wang Yu wiped his sweat in excitement. He then placed the martial scholar's footprint and the black crystal on the control panel. System notification. Will you combine? Combine. Wang Yu clicked confirm. The black crystal and the martial scholar's footprint floated in the air and then merged together. After 10 seconds, the system notification. Combination successful. You have obtained legendary equipment, martial scholar's footprint. The stats of the new equipment didn't change much compared to the previous one. I was too lazy to copy and paste the numbers. Everyone can scroll forward. Other than the main stats being increased to legendary rank, there was also a new legendary skill at the bottom of the equipment. 9 Cloud Dragon appearances. Cloud Dragon's 9 appearances. Instantly teleports to a designated location within 5 meters and deals damage to enemy units within 100 meters. It can be used 9 times in a row within a certain period of time. Every additional teleportation will double the cost, but will also deal additional damage. First teleportation consumes 10% MP cooldown, 60 seconds. This skill looked very awesome. Just the thought of being able to teleport 9 times in a row was terrifying, not to mention the additional damage. But thinking about it carefully, it was rather nonsensical. 1 release would consume 10% MP, 2 releases would consume 10% plus 20% equals 30%, and 3 releases would consume 70%. Although it was called the Cloud Dragon's 9 appearances, it could only flash 3 times at most. Without unlimited MP, this skill was basically an incomplete version. Of course, being able to blink 3 times was already very overpowered. Compared to his previous ability of only being able to blink once, it was much stronger. However, when he looked at the skill description and thought about the casting requirements, Wang Yu felt that the system was insulting his intelligence. In the end, it was still level 70 equipment. After putting on the martial scholar's footprints, Wang Yu felt as light as a swallow. At this time, the system sent another notification. You have gathered the martial god set, 4/4. The set's hidden attribute has been activated. Wind martial scholar's footprints, shoes movement speed increased by 60%. Forest martial scholar's glory. Ring attack speed increased by 60%. Fire martial scholar's Psi, weapon attack power increased by 60%. Mountain martial scholar's protection, clothing defense power increased by 60%. Martial god set? Wang Yu looked at the 4 pieces of equipment on his body in surprise. At this time, the set's attributes had already been lit up. However, the attributes of the 4 pieces of equipment were uneven. The martial scholar's footprints that he had obtained was currently the highest grade. The weapon was slightly better. After several upgrades, it was already epic grade. The level requirement was still able to keep up with Wang Yu's current level. The clothes were more miserable. They were level 20 dark gold-grade equipment. As for the ring, Wang Yu did not care about it at all. Until now, it was still a broken level 10 equipment. It was not that Wang Yu did not want to care about it, but the upgrade quests for divine equipment were different from ordinary equipment. One could tell just by looking at Yin Lauer's Sky Fiend armor. Only the rich players of the Quan Zhen sect could afford it. Unless ordinary people could directly get their hands on a finished product, nurturing a divine weapon would cause them to go bankrupt. Moreover, Wang Yu had nurtured so many of them. Moreover, materials weren't the only things required to nurture a piece of artifact equipment. Compared to the complicated quests, the exorbitant prices of materials that could be bought with money were a trivial matter. Sigh. Thinking of this, Wang Yu could not help but sigh. Why do I have so many divine equipment? It's so annoying. Hearing Wang Yu's sigh, the Chuanzhen people could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Damn it, why did this dog's words need a beating? They really wanted to beat him up. Old cow, you're too wasteful. Others don't even have a single divine equipment, and you think they have too many? Wuji could not help but roll his eyes. When I first met you, you weren't so arrogant. Arrogant my ass. Wang Yu gloomily showed off the equipment on his body. Look at it yourselves. How much effort would it take to upgrade my current equipment? This, seeing the broken and half-baked divine equipment on Wang Yu, the Chuanzhen people immediately fell silent. Now, everyone understood why Wang Yu said that. Broken divine equipment. Who knew how disgusting this thing was? Even if it was called a divine equipment, other than special effects, its main attributes were the same as trash. Even if it was called trash, it still carried the title of divine equipment. It was truly tasteless, but it was a pity to throw it away. However, what shocked everyone even more was the fact that Wang Yu, such an abnormal fellow, was actually equipped with such a pile of low-level trash. What kind of logic was this? If he was really given a suitable set of godly equipment, wouldn't he be able to soar into the sky like a dragon? Forget it. After being stunned for a moment, Wuji waved his hand and said, Old cow, it doesn't matter if he has equipment or not. Let's look at ourselves. Next month is the S-Rank League. Our main goal this month is to improve our equipment. S-Rank League. Hearing Wuji's words, the Chuanzhen people could not help but be in an uproar. The S-Rank Pro League was different from the previous Pro League. As the highest level of competition in the world, the teams in the S-Rank Pro League were the best of the best. Any one of them was a world-class expert. The number of times that 9 provinces had won the S-Rank League could be counted on one hand. Their skill level was very high. Although it was a brand new mode, an expert was still an expert, whether it was his reaction speed or his control over his character's skills. //4_4613/ Chapter 1810. Although Chuanzhen wasn't afraid of anything, they never took a loss when the odds were against them. It was clear that they knew their limit. These guys viewed themselves as bandits through and through. Usually, these guys would steal bosses and steal equipment from other players, which seemed like very despicable things. When they played the game, their main goal was to be happy. They were content with a little bit of wealth. They never had any ambitions to conquer the world, not to mention playing in a professional competition. Not to mention going to the international arena to compete with the experts that he could only see on the screen in the past. When they heard Wuji mention this, they couldn't help but feel nervous. It couldn't be helped. This group of people wanted to live the lives of ordinary people who killed and looted, who knew that there was no free will in the game. Even these people didn't think that they would have such a day. Can we not go? To place one's pride was the first to speak up, breaking the silence. The burden of an S-rank team wasn't as simple as winning or losing. They also carried the glory of the country. Anything that involved the face of the country was no small matter. To place one's pride was just a kid. To place one's pride was subconsciously timid when he was suddenly entrusted with such a heavy responsibility. I don't think so. Wang Yu rubbed his chin. I heard that the champions and runners-up of the professional competition are qualified teams. If we don't go, it's the same as forfeiting. I know you guys aren't afraid of losing face, but if we lose without a fight, it won't just be our Chuanjian's face. The S-Rank League was an international competition. The teams represented the country. If Chuanjian lost without a fight, it would be the same as the country losing without a fight. The impact of this matter wasn't big, but it definitely wasn't small. You could be knocked down, but you couldn't be defeated. If you didn't even have the courage to fight, then you would really lose face. For those shameless teams, they would at most bear infamy. It wouldn't hurt them or break the law. But for any normal countryman, who would be willing to be ridiculed. It was true that the Chuanjian fellows were thick-skinned and shameless, but they were still very clear about what was right and what was wrong. That's right. Mingdu also giggled and said, Dao Xue is still waiting to win the championship and become his son-in-law. Son-in-law my ass. Don't mention this matter. When Mingjian Daoxue heard this, his face darkened, and he rolled his eyes at Mingdu. Mingjian Daoxue was also a person who cared about his reputation. Becoming a son-in-law was just Miss Meng's one-sided wish. Normal people had their own hands and feet, so who would be willing to suck up to someone else? When it came to marriage, the most important thing was that the two families were of equal social status. For Wang Yu's situation, it was still acceptable. After all, in most cases, the man would not look down on the woman's family. However, for Ming Jian Daoxue's situation, it was completely different. The so-called, if you become the champion, you'll be given a position and whatnot, was perhaps a serious one. However, for Ming Jian Daoxue, this was just a way to give himself a way out. So what if they really won the championship? This position was given to him out of charity. They were not on equal terms in the first place, so how could he let others think highly of him? As the saying went, a man of integrity does not drink water from a stolen spring, and a man of integrity does not accept food given in handouts. The people from Chuanjian could still joke about this matter, but Ming Jian Daoxue himself would definitely not take it seriously. Seeing Ming Jian Daoxue's reaction, the people from Chuanjian were naturally at a loss. However, others might not understand what Ming Jian Daoxue was thinking, but Wuji saw through it in an instant. He grinned and said, Daoxue is really arrogant. He thinks that he doesn't have enough prestige. Prestige? Mingdu asked in bewilderment. How much prestige is considered prestige? Let's put it this way. Wuji gave an example and said, if you were the richest man in the world, and a hooligan who plays games wanted to marry your daughter, what would you do? Why? Mingdu clenched his fists, his face filled with displeasure. See that? Wuji smiled and said, that's exactly what Daoxue thinks. It's just that he's the one who is afraid of being looked down upon by others. At this moment the others also understood what Wuji meant. Wasn't that so? No matter how well one played the game, no matter how much money one earned in the game, one was still just a player. In the eyes of those people from the upper class, it was still not a status that could match up to them. Then what should we do? Don't we want to marry a beautiful wife? Hearing Wuji say this, Mingdu was even more anxious than Ming Jian Daoxue. These two fellows in Chuanjian were usually the closest to each other, and their relationship was also the best. Mingdu was still hoping that Ming Jian Daoxue would bring him to make a fortune after marrying into his family. We just need to raise our reputation, Wuji said faintly. This. How do we bring this up? Everyone was once again dumbfounded. At the end of the day, everyone was a commoner. Even a little rich second generation, like to place one's pride, could only be considered as a middle-class person in the eyes of those tycoons. In their eyes, there was no concept of prestige at all. Wang Yu's family was big, but their martial arts family's thinking was more conservative and kept a low profile. Although they had strength, they were disdainful of showing their faces in public. If it was in the martial arts circle, the Wang family would definitely flock to it like a flock of ducks, but in the financial circle, they were not well known. Find a rich person who is on par with Miss Meng's family as a relative. Wu Ji said, "What else can we do? Don't tell me we need to reincarnate again?" A rich person who is on par with Miss Meng's family as a relative? Hearing that, Mingdu curled his lips and said, "If I had such a relative, why would I be a street rat in the game with you scum?" Old Li is right. Old Li is absolutely right. Everyone nodded in unison. The game was the same as reality, but the circles were different. It was very difficult to play together. Just look at evildoers run wild. It was fine for him to chat during competitions, but if he really had to go through the trouble of grinding dungeons and snatching bosses, he would rather find a place to sleep. Wu Ji, don't you always brag that the people you come into contact with are all super awesome people? Help Daoshua find a relative. Hee hee. Wu Ji laughed and said, "What nonsense. The people I know are all very busy. How would they have the time to care about such a small matter?" How pitiful. Everyone patted famous sword Daoshua's shoulder and comforted him. "Daoshua, your qualifications aren't bad either. Just find another one." Scram, scram, scram. Famous sword Daoshua angrily pointed his middle finger at everyone. "Landlord, are you there?" Just as everyone from Chuanjin was fooling around, Wang Yu's message window suddenly lit up. Wang Yu opened the message and was instantly stunned. There was nothing special about the message, but the sender was a good friend of Wang Yu's who hadn't been online for a long time, Ma Lanhua. Seeing this ID, Wang Yu couldn't recall who it was. However, when he saw the name, Wang Yu suddenly realized that this Ma Lanhua was Molly, who had silently left a few months ago. After all, they lived under the same roof. It was impossible for them to not have any feelings. Seeing that Molly, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly came online, Wang Yu couldn't help but feel excited. He quickly replied, "Little girl, where did you go?" Chapter 1811. Hee hee, I'm home. Marie giggled and asked, "Where are you guys? I didn't see you guys in the tavern." Molly had been in the Quanzhen sect for quite some time. She was very clear about the habits of the people in the Quanzhen sect. She knew that if these people were still online at this time, they would be staying in the tavern. "Where's the guild encampment?" Wang Yu asked. "Give me the authority and pull me in." Hearing that the people in Chuanjin were in the encampment, Marie said anxiously. Although Wang Yu had been in Chuanjin for a long time, the time he had spent in the guild encampment was definitely not as long as Marie. Therefore, Marie still had a deep relationship with the guild encampment. Oh, Wang Yu responded and then threw the authority to Marie. Chuanjin was a democratic guild. Wu Ji was only the leader in name. Everyone in Chuanjin had the authority to pull people in. Ha ha ha. I, Hu Han-san, am back. Not long after Wang Yu threw the authority, a wild laugh came from the teleportation point in the guild encampment. Hearing this voice, everyone immediately looked towards the source of the voice. They saw Marie standing in the teleportation point with her hands on her hips, laughing at the sky. Marie was originally a very cheerful girl. She was usually like a tomboy, so it was not strange for her to act like this. However, this girl had suddenly appeared a few months ago. It was still very surprising. Huh? Marie? Seeing Marie in the teleportation point, Bao San immediately stood up and hurriedly went to greet her. "Brother San." Seeing Bao San walk over, Marie, who had her hands on her hips, suddenly blushed and lowered her head. "What have you been doing for the past few months?" Bao San walked up to Marie and asked with a frown. Bao San's feelings for Molly were complicated. He didn't think much of it before, but after Molly left, Bao San always felt empty in his heart. Now that Molly suddenly came back, Bao San was surprised and surprised. There was even a hint of reproach in his tone, as if he was complaining that the girl had left without saying goodbye. Yo! Bao San's anxious appearance made the people of Chuanjin cast sidelong glances at him. It was as if they could smell a sour stench. Seeing that Bao San was so concerned about her, Molly was secretly happy. She quickly said, "Something happened at home, but it's fine now." Oh, it's good that you're fine." Bao San scratched the back of his head and fell into silence. The reason why this silly dog Bao San was the spare tire was because he was a typical engineering dog, and did not know how to communicate with girls. Although his face was anxious, he actually managed to keep Tian chatting to death. Fortunately, Marie was an outgoing girl, and she knew how stubborn Third Bao was. She took the initiative to find a topic of conversation. "Why are you guys here at the guild encampment today? Look at how down you all are. Is it because I'm back that you're pissed?" No. Bao San said anxiously, "We are worried about Daoshue's relationship." "Whoa, you're a single dog and you're worried about someone else." Hearing this, Molly looked at Bao San from head to toe with disdain. This made Bao San blush, and he was speechless for a while. What's going on? Did his girlfriend run away with someone else? At this time, Molly did not forget to expose Bao San's scars. It would be better if she ran away with someone else. Just when Bao San did not know how to answer, Wuji appeared out of nowhere and helped him out with a smile. In this case, Daoshua doesn't have to worry. Yee. Wuji's words confused Molly. Molly said with a smile, "Boss Wuji, we haven't seen each other for so long, but you still like to say things halfway. It's all because of the prestige." Molly was not an outsider. Wuji briefly told her about the famous swordsmanship school. After listening to Wuji's story, Molly understood and said, "I thought it was something stupid. So it's because of this. What's the big deal? You're so smart that you can't do anything about Mingdu?" "There is a way." Wuji spread his hands and said, "Unfortunately, our ability is limited. We can't find a relative with prestige for Daoshua." "That's easy." Molly snapped her fingers and said, "From now on, Brother Daoshua will be my cousin." Seeing Molly putting on an act, Mingdu could not help but laugh. "Big sister, you didn't understand, did you?" Old dog Wuji said it very clearly. "We have to find a relative with prestige for Daoshua." It was not that Mingdu looked down on Molly. In Mingdu's eyes, although the people from Chuanjin were all awesome, in front of Miss Meng, ordinary people were not worthy of the word prestige. Moreover, Mingdu also heard that Molly and the other girls were renting a house at Wang Yu's house. Who would rent a house if they had prestige? Why? Molly curled her lips and said, "Am I not beautiful enough? This is not a matter of beauty." Mingdu was a little mad. "What do you know?" At this time, Wuji rolled his eyes at Mingdu, then he turned to Molly with a smile and said, "Since Miss Ma is willing to help, then I will thank you on behalf of Daoshua." It's nothing. Molly waved her hand and looked like she did not care at all. Damn. Seeing Wuji like this, Mingdu directly exploded and quickly sent a private message to Wuji. "What prestige does she have? Old dog Wuji, you are crazy. Although we are brothers, I will not agree to you snatching my brother's girlfriend." Great, this kid Mingdu thought that Wuji wanted to cheat him in order to snatch Daoshua's girlfriend. F***CKU. Wuji scolded, "Do I look like that kind of person?" "That's hard to say." Mingdu didn't dare to fully trust Wuji's character against a fella who was used to using his lack of morals to convince others. Eat **T. Wuji sighed and said, "You idiot, this Miss Ma is not an ordinary person." "I don't believe you." Mingdu continued to have a face full of disdain. Wuji could not be bothered with this idiot. He turned his face and continued to ask, "Little Ma, you disappeared for so long and suddenly appeared again. It's not just to be Daoshua's cousin, right?" "Of course not." Molly looked around and said, I came back this time to discuss business with Boss Wuji. What business? Wuji was not surprised by Molly's words. Haha, then I will say it directly. Molly smiled and said, everyone here is a capable person, especially me, Nyogu, who is a rare talent. Don't you want to pursue higher development? Pursue higher development? Wuji heard it and asked knowingly, I don't quite understand what you mean. It's very simple. Molly explained, someone is interested in our Chuanjin and wants to sign us. Chapter 1812. Oh! Hearing Molly's words, the attention of Chuanjin's members was attracted. Signing a contract or not was one thing. Whether or not anyone took the initiative to look for him was another. When the Quanzhen sect first won the professional league, there were still many people looking for the Quanzhen sect. But now, no one was interested. After all, they were just a grassroots team. Even though they had won the championship for a while, in the eyes of the majority, luck played a large part in their victory. This was especially true after the Monster Rampage signed the Complete Reality Sex group. Naturally, no one dared to provoke the Colossus that was unhindered. As a famous expert, no one tried to poach them. The people of Chuanjin were still very concerned. Moreover, to move unhindered was a purely commercial guild. Their main business was a gaming studio. They had no interest in professional competitions. Therefore, evildoers run wild did not care about Chuanjin's group. To move unhindered, the people of Chuanjin had to pay for materials out of their own pocket. If they did not pay, the people below them would complain. This was something that would never happen in other guilds. A proper guild would always raise a team to provide for them. Unlike Unhindered the World, who only raised the Quanzhen sect as their signboard and hired thugs, never doing anything proper. To move unhindered, the people of Chuanjin were very excited when they heard that someone wanted to sign them. Who is it? Who has such foresight? Mingdu had always been straightforward. He did not care about evildoers run wild standing beside him and asked. Molly said calmly, Me? You? Not only Mingdu, but the people of Chuanjin were also stunned when they heard Molly's words. This little girl must be crazy. Do you know how much it costs to sign a professional team? Bao Sen could not help but pull Molly. Stop messing around. Money is a small matter. Molly waved her hand and said, You are all first-rate experts. Nyogo has another contract. Hey, are you done? You're talking like it's the truth, Bao San said awkwardly as he wiped his sweat. Currently, first-rate experts like Team 9 states had an annual salary of at least 30 million RMB. For a powerful person like Wang Yu, it would be at least 100 million RMB. Molly was just a little girl in a gold farming studio. Without Wang Yu's care, she might not even be able to survive in the game. Now, she was talking about a contract worth a few 100 million RMB. Seeing Third Bao's expression, Molly said slowly, Third brother, everyone, I'm serious. As long as everyone agrees, we can sign the contract in the game right now. With that, Molly pulled out a stack of contracts and handed it to Wuji. There really is a contract? What a good show. Seeing the contract in Wuji's hand, Mingdu and the others quickly gathered around. However, when they saw the company's name at the bottom of the contract, they were all stunned. The name at the bottom of the contract that Molly handed over was Longting Corporation. In the game, in order to facilitate the transfer of professional players, the investment companies of the major teams in the game could apply to the game company to register the company's name in the game. It also had legal effects. Although the name Longting Corporation was tacky, there was only one company that had the capital to invest in a team. It was the largest business conglomerate in the country, Longting Corporation. Longting Corporation started off as an internet software company a few years ago. It had been developing for over 100 years, and its business covered all fields. Online games were only a part of it. Even the game that everyone was playing now, Rebirth, was only a product of a studio under Longting Corporation. In the eyes of the Chuanjian players, Molly was just a gold farming party, the lowest class in the game. At this time, Molly took out a contract from Longting Corporation. This was basically the same as a loser who was always cursing and swearing with them suddenly telling them that he was the richest man in the world. Not only was it unbelievable, but it also made them feel like they were dreaming. Is this fake? Especially Mingdu, when he saw the signature on the contract, he was a little doubtful. He grabbed the contract from Wuji's hand and looked it up and down several times, trying to find some clues. Don't talk nonsense. Wuji said, this is a game. The company's signature needs to be verified and registered. If it's fake, the cost of counterfeiting is too high. Besides, Little Ma has already said her identity. What? Identity? You know her identity? Mingdu was still a little confused. Wuji was speechless. Longting Corporation, surnamed Ma. Do I need to tell you her identity? Longting Corporation, surnamed Ma, you are. After being reminded by Wuji, Mingdu instantly understood. He pointed at Molly and did not know what to say. That's right. Wuji nodded and said, Miss Ma is Boss Ma's daughter. Seeing that Wuji was different from the others and was not surprised at all, Wang Yu squinted and asked, Look at you, you already knew? Of course. Wuji smiled and said, I already knew when we were in the professional league. She accidentally let it slip, but I still heard it. F***ck. Why didn't you say so earlier? The people of Chuanjian glared at Wuji. This son of AB***tch was too despicable. He clearly knew Ma Li's real identity, but he still pretended not to know, making others feel as if they were blind. Wuji grinned and said, It's so exciting to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger. Miss Ma might very well be our boss in the future, so of course I can't expose her. Besides, you guys are so full of yourself every day. It's time for you guys to suffer. Ha. Molly blushed when Wuji saw through her. She laughed to cover up her embarrassment and said, Boss Wuji is still so smart. Are we signing this contract or not? If you think the treatment is not good enough, we can talk about it again. Miss Ma. As soon as Molly finished speaking, before Wuji could answer, Evildoers Run Wild beside her was unhappy. He said with a dark face, You're not being kind. It's not like no one in Chuanjian wants them now. Why don't you ask me? Back then, in order to avoid harassment, Chuanjian was signed by Evildoers Run Wild. Just now, Evildoers Run Wild thought that Molly was joking with the people of Chuanjian, so he did not take this little girl seriously. Who knew that this little girl was so impressive that she even took out the signature of Longting Company. Naturally, Evildoers Run Wild could not just stand by and watch. Haha, evil boss. Molly was also a clever little girl. Seeing that Evildoers Run Wild was unhappy, she quickly said, To move unhindered, isn't it a waste of talent to tie up all the bosses? Haha. Not to be outdone, Evildoers Run Wild said, As a game developer, doesn't Longting Company know how to avoid arousing suspicion? After all, Evildoers Run Wild was a boss with millions of employees. When he saw things, he got to the point with one sentence. Yes. Hearing Evildoers Run Wild's words, Wuji also frowned and asked in confusion. Chapter 1813. As the game developer, Longting Group was the one who set the rules of the game. No one knew better than Longting Group where there were magical weapons and skills in the game. It was unfair to other teams that Longting Group signed a team to participate in the competition. In this case, Longting Group needed to avoid arousing suspicion. You didn't read the contract, did you? Molly pointed at the contract and said, This is not a competition contract, but an endorsement contract. Endorsement contract? When the evildoer Rampage heard this, he quickly lowered his head and looked at the contract. As expected, the terms of the contract were clearly written on it. At this time, Molly said, the terms on my contract are only for the endorsement of the game. Other than that, you are not bound. Listening to Molly's explanation, Wang Yu could not help but ask, this is not appropriate, right? Why do I feel that this contract is a bit? One could not blame Wang Yu for feeling uneasy. After all, Wang Yu had always been a down-to-earth person. He was very reasonable and paid according to the amount of work he did. The treatment written on the contract was obviously the treatment of a first-line team. A team and an endorsement were two completely different concepts. A team had to invest a lot of energy in training and participate in various major competitions. It seemed that playing games every day was very easy, and they did not even need to collect equipment and materials by themselves. In fact, it was tiring and more exhausting than normal work. The signing company spent tens of millions to sign these professional masters, which was worth the money. However, an endorsement was different. Under normal circumstances, an endorsement was just an advertisement. At most, it was a few poses and a few words. For such a job, even if a first-line star was to endorse, it would only be a few million appearance fees. Wouldn't it be much better to find a few fresh meat to endorse than those guys from Chuanjian? This group of old dogs were either ugly or wretched. Only Wang Yu, who was good-looking, was stupid. What was the King use of spending a few $100 million to get this group of fellows to endorse? Ha! Seeing Wang Yu's expression, Molly smiled and said, Niu Gu. To be honest, a few $100 million to get you to endorse is really not much. Really? Am I that valuable? Wang Yu asked in disbelief. He was just a martial artist, not a young model or fresh meat. How could he be so valuable? Of course. Before Molly could explain, Wuji said, have you forgotten that someone offered $100 million to sign you when you first started playing the game? You even rejected the offer. You were worth $100 million back then, let alone now. In the end, Wuji was still Wuji. He could see the problem clearly. Back then, Wang Yu had been worth $100 million without revealing himself. Now that he was the core expert of a team that had won the Pro League, a few $100 million was not a lot. I know, Wang Yu said, but this is just an endorsement. Humph. Wuji snorted. Do you think the Ma family will make a losing deal? They are certain that you, a stock with great potential, can win the world championship, understand? Haha. Hearing Wuji's words, Molly laughed and said, Boss Wuji is always so straightforward. Wuji was right. The reason why Longting Group signed Wang Yu was because they knew about Wang Yu's strength. In the game industry, the game's publicity fee was 1/10 of the game's profit. In other words, if Longting Group earned $100 million, the publicity department would have to spend $10 million to advertise. In the past, Longting Group had a very popular mobile game with an annual profit of $30 billion. The publicity fee alone was $3 billion. So much so that Longting Group spent money to find a celebrity to endorse every time they released a game hero. As the most significant game in Longting Group, Rebirth had an annual profit of more than $100 billion. The publicity fee was naturally unimaginable. However, Rebirth was a traditional online game for all. The effect of finding a celebrity to endorse was relatively small. Naturally, it would be better to find some game experts. Molly had been in Chuanjian since she entered the game. She must be very clear about Wang Yu's strength. It was reasonable for her to put her chips on Wang Yu in advance. After all, a few $100 million was insignificant compared to the tens of billions of publicity fee of Longting Group. If they could sign Wang Yu, a master who was likely to win the world championship, as an endorsement, they would still make a profit. If Wang Yu really won the world championship, Longting Group would not be able to take out the few $100 million. Wuji was very shrewd. Of course, Molly's little thoughts could not be hidden from him. Haha. Facing Molly's embarrassment, Wuji smiled again and said, We know the strength of the old guys in Chuanjian. But you may know better than me what Old Cow is capable of. Even if Old Cow can't win the World Championship because of us, he can at least make it to the top 4. Don't you think it's a little unkind for you to save so much money all of a sudden? No, 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 Molly said with a smile. This contract is just a signed contract. If you can win the World Championship, I guarantee that your bonus will be a digit more than the figure on the contract. Hiss! As soon as Molly said this, the people in Chuanjin could not help but gasp. She was indeed a child of a rich family. She spoke with confidence. Once she spoke, a few 100 million would not be able to stop her. Although Chuanjin did not lack second generations, most of them were not rich. Usually, they did not have a concept of a few 100 million. At most, it was just a matter of a few 100 million. But when a contract of a few 100 million was placed in front of them, the feeling was completely different. This was real gold and silver, a real hard currency, not the game currency in the game with this money. As long as they did not seek death by engaging in prostitution, gambling, or drugs, they could live comfortably for the rest of their lives. Famous sword Daoshua had earned a few 100 million at a young age with his personal strength. In front of his future father-in-law, he could be more confident. Even the rich and imposing big boss of evildoers Run Wild could not help but be a little tempted. Well, do you want to sign me as well? Evildoers Run Wild said. In fact, I'm also one of the players of the Motley Crowd team. Of course, Molly said lightly. If Boss Evildoer wants to come, I'll give you the same treatment as Nyogo. Little Sister Ma is still the most straightforward. Evildoers Run Wild smiled and said, Don't worry, these guys in Chuanjin will definitely sign. Even if they don't sign, I'll force them to sign. Indeed, money was the only thing that could not be defeated in the world. In front of RMB, even the strongest big boss had to lower his head. Then, can someone reimburse our team's equipment and resources? At this time, Wuji did not forget to take advantage of them. Of course. Evildoers Run Wild said shamelessly, If you need any materials, just take them from me. Little Sister Ma will definitely not let me suffer a loss. Of course. Molly smiled. Chapter 1814. I am a martial artist of online games, please take a leave today. Currently typing, please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 1815. Whether it was in the real world or the online world, for the rich, anything that could be solved with money was basically not a problem. There was still a month before the International Professional League. During this time, Wang Yu and his team put all their energy into equipment. The others were fine. They were either equipped with ordinary equipment or finished equipment. It was more convenient for them to upgrade their equipment. Wang Yu was a bit more troublesome. He was equipped with defective artifacts. After a month, his upgrade was very limited. It couldn't be helped. Wang Yu's weapon and clothes needed artifacts as sacrifices to upgrade. This condition was a bit harsh. As for the broken ring, it was even worse than the clothes and weapons. The conditions for the clothes and weapons were a bit harsh, but at least they knew how to upgrade them. There was no clue about the ring. In desperation, Wang Yu had to use the phantasmal spirit stone to upgrade the equipment on his body. It was just in case. 1 week before the International Professional League, the Chuanjin team finally received an official invitation from the Longting Corporation. This was different from the last time. Last time, the people from the Quanzhen sect were completely grassroots. This time, they were the champions of the Professional League. Naturally, the treatment they received was worlds apart. Not only was the Longting Corporation responsible for all the transportation and accommodation, but they also had special reception services. After all, Rebirth was currently the most popular online game in the world. Because of this, Longting Company had also entered the international online game market. In order to fully export their own products, Longting Company, which was rich and overbearing, did not need to spend a lot of money. This S-rank professional league was a world-class league. There were a total of 3 continents and a total of 18 teams from 9 servers participating in this competition. The selected teams were each the 2 strongest teams in their respective servers. In addition to the motley crew of Chuanjin, there was also the runner-up team of the last professional league, 9 States. 9 States was a strong team among strong teams. Since the development of the esports industry, they had won the World Championship 3 times. Each time, they could reach the top 4. They were one of the world's top teams. This was the first time that they participated in the S-rank professional league as the runner-up of the national server. However, the most excited people at this time were not the 2 shortlisted teams, but the players of the national server. Although the esports level of the domestic server had always been at the forefront of the world, although there were many domestic teams, the only team that could really reach the world level was the 9 provinces team. Every time, it was difficult to do it alone. This time, there was a team that was stronger than 9 regions team, so their chances of winning the championship were naturally higher than before. Of course, where there were people, there would be society. Where there were idols, there would be die-hard fans. Before the 2 teams had even set off, the forums of the local server were already in an uproar. It was even more lively than in the game. As a veteran team that had dominated the national server for many years, the 9 regions team had many fans. This time, the 9 regions team was eliminated as the runner-up, so the 9 regions team was bound to be very unconvinced. Everyone knew about the trivial matter of the die-hard fans. The die-hard fans of the 9 regions team had nowhere to vent their resentment, so they directly targeted the champion team, the mob team. What grassroots teams that relied on luck and didn't deserve to be relegated as champions if they didn't have the ability to do so? What rubbish teams with shady conspiracies? In any case, as long as it was dirty water, it would be poured onto Chuanjin. Everyone believed in what they wanted to believe. Who wouldn't be willing to believe that their idol was stronger? This kind of feeling was actually not hard to understand. However, if you have resentment, that's your business. You can't pour dirty water on other teams. Although the mob team wasn't famous and didn't have many fans, they represented the vast grassroots. Who didn't have a dream? The mob team was the model of grassroots inspiration. Many players put themselves in their shoes. Now that the mob team was being splashed with dirty water, it felt like they were being splashed with dirty water. This wave of actions by the fans of the 9 regions team directly attracted the attention of the onlookers. For a moment, the forum was flooded with tens of thousands of comments. The diehard fans of both sides and the passers-by fans were locked in a fierce battle. The data of the Rebirth forum almost collapsed. In the game, the people involved in this incident, Chuanjin and his group were drinking and chatting in the tavern as if nothing had happened. Ayayaya. I heard that the forum is going to explode this time, haha. Mingjian Daoxue was vividly describing the battle on the forum. They really have nothing better to do. Wang Yu was speechless. If you have this time, can't you do something serious? Wang Yu had also seen the posts scolding Chuanjin on the forum. Logically speaking, seeing people distort the truth, Wang Yu was still very unhappy. He had won the championship with his own ability. How was it shady? He had been practicing martial arts since he was young, but in the mouth of these keyboard warriors, it became luck. How could he even explain it? Fortunately, Wang Yu's state of mind was relatively high. This matter was over. However, Wang Yu never expected that because of this matter, the players on the forum would cause such a huge commotion. The current online keyboard warriors were really too vicious. There's no smoke without fire. Wuji waved his hand and smiled. Those haters were just used by others. Wang Yu was puzzled. What do you mean by that? Hee. Wuji smirked. Do you think this matter will be blown up just like that? There must be someone behind this. Behind this? What are they after? Wang Yu asked, puzzled. Fame and fortune, Wu Ji said in a tone as if he had seen through it, to fight for our reputation. We are the champions, so we naturally don't think there's anything to be proud of. The teams that are suppressed by us, a group of grassroots, don't think so. You mean the one who started this matter is 9 states? Wang Yu was surprised. It can't be. I don't think 5 Lakes 4 Seas is the kind of person who would target us. Of course, he's not targeting us, Wu Ji explained. In the past, they were the champions every time. This time, they were the runner-up. Of course, this kid has to give his fans an explanation. Just wait and see. It won't be long before 9 states comes out to clarify. Clarify? What does that mean? Wang Yu was confused again. He never thought that there were so many tricks in playing a game. Wu Ji smiled and said, first provoke a war, then settle it with a sentence. Both fame and fortune. Although Wang Yu still didn't quite understand Wu Ji's words, he seemed to understand some of it. Then what do we do? Wang Yu asked again. We just need to watch, Wu Ji said. This is also a chance for us to increase our fame. What's the use of fame? Wang Yu's face was full of disdain. Please remember this book's domain name. Mobile version website. Chapter 1816. Sure enough, as Wu Ji expected, the war of words on the forum lasted for a full 3 days. 3 days later, 538 made a post. The content of the post was similar to what Wu Ji had expected. The general content was as follows. The Motley Crowd team is definitely a very strong team. Those rumors and slanders are definitely malicious. However, because these rumors and slanders came from the fans of 9 states, 9 states is willing to take responsibility for this matter, and so on. No wonder Wu Ji said that this kid 538 was a fox. This grandson first boasted about the strength of Chuanjin to draw a clear line between himself and the rumors. Then, he took responsibility for this war of words in one fell swoop, giving people an image of a responsible person. Not only did he attack the champion team, the Motley Crowd team, gave his fans an explanation, and won a good reputation as a national idol. It was killing many birds with one stone. Whether it was their popularity or reputation, they were pushed to the peak. F***ck, Wu Ji old dog, how does your brain work like this? Seeing 538's clarification post on the forum, the people of Chuanjin naturally admired Wu Ji's conjecture. Humph humph. Wu Ji smiled faintly and said, this is just the beginning. Seeing that 538 had begun to close the net, Wu Ji touched his chin and said with a smile, this drama queen has been playing for so long. It's time for us to show up. What bad things do you want to do this time? Seeing Wu Ji's expression, Wang Yu asked curiously. Those who were familiar with Wu Ji knew that once this kid revealed this expression, it looked like he was planning to start scheming. Bad things? You're thinking too much. Wu Ji smiled and said, everyone has been arguing for so long, but we still haven't come to a conclusion. Although 538 is good at winning people's hearts, it still can't convince the masses. I still need to help. After saying that, Wu Ji went offline. Not long after, under the posts from 538 on the main forum, there was another post. The content of the post was very simple, with only a few lines of words. Who is strong and who is weak is not just one person's opinion. We, the Motley Crowd team, never take the initiative to provoke disputes, but we are not weaklings who can be humiliated by others. We, the Motley Crowd team, only care about reality. I am willing to take out 10 million gold coins to bet that this time, our team will definitely achieve better results than the 9 states team. Signed, Chuanjin Sect Leader Wu Ji. Wow! With Wu Ji's post, the local server forum, which was about to calm down, was once again thrown into a frenzy. Compared to 5 Lakes and 4 Seas clarification and responsibility, Wu Ji's post was much more vulgar. However, his words were crude, but his reasoning was not crude. I don't want to clarify things, nor do I want to get close to them. Isn't there someone who doubts the strength of a motley crew? 10 million gold coins was an astronomical figure for all players. Wasn't there someone who doubted the strength of the motley crowd team? Explanations are useless. I will use my actions to prove my strength. 10 million gold coins was an astronomical figure for all players. Wuji took out so many gold coins to bet, which could be considered as a direct proof of his determination. He was also determined to achieve a better ranking in the International Professional League. Originally, when everyone saw that the guys from Chuanjin were silent, they thought that their motley crowd team had already given up. However, in the end, they made such a move and immediately gained countless fans. What did it mean to be stubborn? This was it. In the face of suspicion and doubt, a grassroots team did not have any superfluous words, just do it. Such a bold and domineering response. Probably only Chuanjin had this kind of courage in the entire game. Damn! Are these guys so vicious? In the office of the Nine States team, the group of people from 538 was waiting for the popularity of the Nine States team to be hyped up. In the end, who knew that this kid, Wuji, would suddenly come out and directly steal the limelight of the Nine States team? Humph! 538 coldly snorted and said, "It's Chuanjin, I'm not surprised by what these guys do." Then we'll let them be arrogant? Their own design had become a wedding dress for others. This group of guys from the Nine States team was naturally not convinced. Of course not. 538 waved his hand and then went to the forum to post. Although our Nine States team is not as rich as the Motley Crowd team, in order to show our determination, our Nine States team is also willing to bet 10 million gold coins on this game. As soon as this post was posted, although 538 didn't pull all the attention over, it also brought the whole incident to a climax. Whether it was the Nine States team or the Motley Crowd team, they were both well-known strong teams in the national server. In the past few days, because the fans of these two teams were fighting with each other, it had already caused an uproar, but that was only a battle of words. But now, these two great teams had directly placed a bet of 10 million gold coins. The spectators naturally felt their blood boil with excitement. This matter was getting more and more interesting. In addition to these people who were watching the show, there was also a lack of people who didn't mind the matter getting bigger. Seeing that the two big teams had shown their sincerity, there were naturally people who couldn't hold back. As a result, the two posts were followed by countless people. Me and 1,000 Motley Crowd team wins. Me and 10,000 Nine States team wins. Like this, the posts instantly covered tens of thousands of floors, and the two posts were also manually pinned at the top of the forum. Seeing this scene, Wuji was so happy that snot bubbles came out of his nose. This group of guys from Chuanjin had always prioritized practical benefits, especially this sinister and cunning guy like Wuji. Naturally, he wouldn't take a loss. What was the point of being scolded for so long for no reason? Wasn't it for this result? Opening bets during a competition was a normal operation outside of the game. Every time there was a competition, there would definitely be people placing bets. Even if it was a guild war between two guilds, there would still be people taking the opportunity to gamble. However, gambling was ultimately not a good thing. Other than those gamblers, most people were just playing around. People like Wang Yu, who was a righteous person, didn't even play. Therefore, not to mention that the audience for these underground bets was small, it was usually the gamblers who won, and ordinary people would throw money into it. This time, Wuji simply played it big, and acted as the gambler himself. At this moment, the mood of the players in the entire national server had already been stirred up by the two teams, and those gamblers who were opportunistic were of course eager to give it a try. Players all liked to follow the crowd, and with the matter being so big, the number of people placing bets was bound to be much more than usual. Everyone around them was playing, and even those who didn't usually gamble would inevitably gamble a little in order to fit in with the group. Wuji, you're committing a crime, don't you know? Things had developed to this point, and of course, Wang Yu also saw through Wuji's thoughts. Wuji spread his hands indifferently and said, "This is game currency, what kind of crime is it? During the World Cup, there was a time when we played with beans." Speaking up to this point, Wuji said again, "I'm also doing this for everyone's sake. If you don't play this kind of thing, there will definitely be others who play. At least half of us as the gamblers will make a profit. If it were anyone else, more than 90% of them will lose everything, okay? I'm doing a good deed, don't you understand? Please remember this book's domain name. Mobile version's fastest updated website. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.